Hello, everybody. Welcome to the weekly spinner rack on Comic Tropes After Dark. I'm your host, Chris. Tell you what, let's start out with something a little better than a salute. Like, really? No. You guys are here, and you're part of the show. You deserve a lot better than that. Double salute. You got it. I wanted to give it. That's my gift to you. You know what? Tell you what. Let's do something else special. The Avengers Doomsday trailer just came out. Let's see my reaction to it. Now, of course, I can't show it to you because, of course, then I'd get copyright claimed. So bear with me. You're going to watch my reactions. Just kidding. No, don't worry. That's not my show. I was having a bit of fun. So there's a lot to talk about tonight. There's going to be some really interesting news and topics. Certainly some big Marvel news. You know, they've announced a move. They've announced a whole new editor-in-chief. We'll get there. There's some other news to talk about, too. All sorts of stuff as the companies that are making comics, the artists, the writers, the publishers are all sort of positioning themselves to get a little bit of buzz just before going into San Diego Comic-Con weekend. I'm excited to talk about some of the comics that came out this week. You know, we'll start with the news, then we'll do some conversation about some of the comics. Man, Dork continues to impress. I can't wait to talk about that one with you all. What else was cool? Oh, I got this out of a Gachapon machine. I'm going to open it up with us. We're going to see. It can be one of several covers as like a small poster. I'll explain. You've all heard of Jimothy. Well, there's a Jimothy in my life known as Jim Mahfood, and he sent me his latest art book. We'll take a quick look at that. I've got a link to get it in the description below. It's pretty cool, folks. And I got a copy, and I've started reading Frank Miller's autobiography / teaching book about how to write comics. It's quite interesting. And then we'll do some drawing because I want to draw while chatting with you all about some of the stuff that's been going on, like my latest episodes, some of the changes that I've got planned, maybe give some thoughts, non-spoilery, about latest media like the Odyssey, things like that. So, yeah, you know, should I sing the coffee song if I don't actually have coffee? I just have a Diet Mountain Dew for a little bit of caffeine. But you did ask and didn't give me any money, but I kind of like to just give, like I'm giving out the double salutes tonight. No. Kohi-o, namimasho. Kohi-o, namimasho. All right, tell you what. Let's just get into the news because I think that's going to be one of the most fun parts tonight. Let me throw up the banner, or get it ready, I should say. Let's do News of the Week.
We're sitting on top of the story of the century here.
Put an ad on the front page. Cash money for a picture of Spider-Man. He doesn't want to be famous, and I'll make him infamous.
Hi, guys. This is April O'Neil from Channel 6 News, and I am here in beautiful New York City.
All right. Oh, thank you, producer Chris. Wow, an intro, a ticker showing the topics that we're going to talk about. Just, man, producer me is really helping presenter me tonight. Thank you. Don't throw up? Geez, now you tell me. I've been doing it all day. For the Cookie Fund. Arigatou gozaimasu. No, that's really, really cool. Let's see. Oh, look at this. I'm sorry, I didn't hear about this news. I just heard the news that Ryoichiro Kizuka, the writer and artist of the manga Record Journey, has passed away. The news broke 5 days ago. Died back in May. He was only 36. Well, I didn't have that in my news. I'm sorry about that. Wow. All right. Well, tell you what. Let's try to move forward with some fun stuff. We'll do some of it serious too, but we're going to get started with Absolute Green Arrow. I've been reading it. I've been enjoying it, but I'm a fan of the writer, I will admit. So I was primed to like it. But writer Pornsak Pishoshot posted to his Instagram this week DC has extended the run. Absolute Green Arrow was originally announced as a 6-issue series. That's been extended to 12. So that's, for those of us that are enjoying the book, that's cool. I guess it means another arc, I would assume, because I have to imagine that this is a 6-issue story that he had in mind. I don't think they'll be extending it out, per se. I think that there'll be another follow-up story. What else have we got? This is something he posted with, this image in the news. I wasn't prepared to believe this book would even exist because back when I was a DC Comics employee, the company felt nowhere near bold enough to publish something like this. I can understand that. It's definitely, I would say Green Arrow and Martian Manhunter are the most different from their standard versions. I think that they've got all the elements, but they're the most different, those two projects. Raphael Albuquerque and Pornsock remain the creative team, so that's staying in place. It's not like a new team taking over. Consistency, yay! Issue 1 earned the number 2 spot in both unit and dollar sales in comic shops, and that's according to the combined Comic Hub and Comic Shop Assistant point of sale data. Pretty impressive. There's something like that represents, I think, around, I want to say 600 stores. So it's a snapshot. At the same time, you can generally trust the top 5 to top 10 things. So yeah, that's really interesting. Let's see. Reminds me of another time I heard a comic series was expanded to 12 issues after originally being 6. Watchmen. I didn't remember that at all. The original Watchmen was announced as just being 6 issues? Huh. I just have a hard time imagining how you condense such a layered story into less. Interesting. Well, thanks for sharing. I'll have to read up on that, actually. That's... No, I don't know. I hadn't come across it, but I don't know. I'd have to read up on it. But yeah, I'm enjoying Absolute Green Arrow. I think that DC's doing a good job of not doing too much Absolute stuff. I thought about it the other day and I was like, okay, there's a little bit more than I realized. Because you always think, okay, they started Absolute Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman. Got it. And I think about Absolute Martian Manhunter and Absolute Green Arrow. I tend to forget that there is an Absolute Flash and an Absolute Green Lantern. I tend to forget that. But that's not too bad. That's really not too bad, considering how well it's doing. Every single ad for it says 12 issues. Every post. Yeah. Do you think he originally pitched it as 6? I don't know. Okay. That's true. Yep. Something is Killing the Children started as a limited series. Poison Ivy. That's currently ongoing. That was, I think, originally just 6 issues and then got extended to 12 and then just kind of kept going. What else started as, at least in recent days, something that started small and then got extended? Now, those are some pretty good examples. I can't think of anything else. But anyway, just wanted to share that. I've got some more DC news. Look at this. Here's a surprise. Xolo Maridueña, sorry about that. He's set to reprise his Blue Beetle role in the Superman sequel, Man of Tomorrow. I didn't see that coming. I like it. I thought he did a good job as Blue Beetle. So the movie was decent. It wasn't exceptional, but he was very good in the role. I thought it looked good. I thought it had... I liked the movie. It just was... It wasn't groundbreaking, but I honestly did chuckle at like some of the family stuff. Some people think the grandma might have been over the top. I don't know. I thought it was fun. I thought that there was good chemistry between the male and female leads. And the action was good. The villain wasn't super exciting, but it was good. It was good. It was good. So anyway, kind of interesting. So talk about stuff getting extended, right? I don't think we expected necessarily more Blue Beetle, but writer-director James Gunn himself, who's doing Man of Tomorrow, he confirmed the news on his friend Michael Rosenbaum's podcast. Xolo had starred as Jaime Reyes as in the Blue Beetle back in 2023, not that long ago, but that was just before the new DCU emerged. So, it also didn't necessarily set the world on fire box office wise. It earned about $130 million. It had at least $100 million budget, maybe up to 120. You got to factor in marketing costs and that movie theaters get a take of that. So, it lost some money. But critically, it did pretty well. I want to say it was somewhere like high 70s, like 78 or 79% on Rotten Tomatoes. Most of the critics liked it. I liked it. Yeah, they set up elements to establish that Ted Kord exists. And I think that would be fun to get Ted Kord. That would be really cool. They were saying very non-committal things at the time. But I think that the filmmakers of Blue Beetle might have sort of seen the writing on the wall that the DCEU, the Snyderverse, was kind of falling apart. And I think that they intentionally didn't lean into any connections with any of the previous movies. Like, can you imagine if they were like, and guess what? Shazam stops by. Yeah. So what else? Quote from the actor. Regardless, or if we got 20 movies, or if it's just this one, I feel truly fulfilled. If we get to do another one, I'm so ready, and shit, I'll put on another 20 pounds and get even bigger. I don't think you need to do that. Let's see. The character, created by writers Keith Giffen and John Rogers with artist Cully Hamner. Jaime debuted back in 2006. Infinite Crisis, I want to say number 3, if I'm remembering right. He got an alien scarab that allows him to form armor into whatever he can imagine, swords and hammers and things like that. So yeah, a very cool character. And I'm sure it will not be a humongous role if I had to guess. But it fleshes out the world and it gives, Blue Beetle a chance to do something else. Yeah. Oh, yeah, there's a lot that they can do with the character. And I think that it's important to introduce a few superheroes that are younger so that, as long as the DCU has legs, they've got some of these characters that they can lean on as time goes on. Yep, Lobo's own Keith Giffen. He did a lot. Keith Giffen did a lot. It was really cool. Yeah, if he really wanted to, he could look like a dung beetle and roll around like some sort of dumb transformer. Yeah, he could do that. And I think he should do that. I want to say that the movie also had like something like a small mention of Dan Garrett. I only saw it the one time, but I seem to remember that there was a mention of Dan Garrett, maybe going through Ted Kord's files or something like that. Just remember, the Dan Garrett original Golden Age Blue Beetle, he went up against big dicks. And of course, I'm talking about the gangster. I don't know what else you'd be thinking. I made a whole episode about it. But Blue Beetle could handle big dicks. He had no problem with it. Blue Beetle can handle big dicks. Take that, big dicks. All right. More DC stuff. Jim. Here's a naughty Jimothy. There's nice Jimothys, like the amazing little raccoon we've got running around here in Seattle. I can't get enough of him. My friend Jim Mahfood is a good Jimothy, but Jimothy Lee, I don't know. Look at this. Last week, there's a pretty big piece of news. DC issued new guidelines to stores on how to handle making variant covers. When a store wants to make their own variant cover, they had rules, they had the approval process. But one of the biggest things was that they said that they were against price gouging, and they had some strong recommendations on how stores priced them, saying that they could like cut them off from ordering from DC if you violated any of these rules. They recommended charging no more than 5 times cover price for a custom variant and no more than 10 times for a signed edition. That was just a few days ago. And then what happens? Well, this week, GlobalComix announced Jim Lee drawn variants for Absolute Wonder Woman, Absolute Batman, Absolute Superman. And what are they priced at? $100 for the regular trade covers, just the regular version, $100. $125 for black and white covers, and $150 for virgin foil. They all come with a token to admittedly get a signature. Doesn't necessarily mean you get it, but you could get it if you attend the convention and you get through the line and everything. But yeah, let's do the math there. Normal price, $4.99 for a comic, right? So $100 is 20 times a foil cover is twice that. So that's only 15 times normal price. So I guess Jim Lee, it's like they're not going to get GlobalComix in trouble for letting the president do this, right? The timing, you know, they announced these new rules, and then less than a week after they announced them, the president is doing a variant cover, and they're like, 20 times cover price. So, good Lord. And that's a fair point. You have to price these things somewhere that the market dictates where things will be, because right, they could sell it for $7 and technically you're making some sort of a profit, right? But then everybody's going to be flipping them for hundreds. They are. So it's like you do need to control the flow on some level. Like somebody like me is like, if I saw it for cover price, maybe I'd get the Jim Lee cover. Maybe. Probably not. But maybe. I like a lot of his art. But I'm definitely not a person that's going to spend $100 on a Jim Lee variant. Yeah, it's the optics on it. It's just so weird. Oh, I didn't realize that GlobalComix was one of the stores that has had to shut down their brick and mortar. But there are several companies in business now as like purely online retail stores. I know Silver Sprocket, which is indie, did that this year. They're going to come up in the news tonight too. I'm afraid I'm not familiar with Pat Oliphant. Sorry. What else we got? Thank Jim. Naughty. Oh, darn. I just forgot. Like I've got a proposal waiting to get approved at DC. Now that I mentioned this, that'll never happen. Oh, I'll have to keep doing YouTube. Rats. Batman. Look at all this Batman stuff. And I don't know if you can tell, but this is Tiny Batman. So MGA is a company that makes a very popular line. You may have seen them, you may not, depending on whether you have kids or walk through a toy aisle or anything. But they make sort of these, not gachapon, but blind bag style mini items. They've got everything from, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, cooking, plants, just all sorts of tiny stuff. So a lot of it branded. But like it's all tiny, but it's blind. Who knows what you'll get? Well, now they've added the Batman to this. That's right. I'm calling him the Batman because I treat the man with respect. All right. I treat him with a notch of respect. All right. Each capsule, they come in like this. So it's more of, I call it a capsule. I don't know what else to call it. A box. It's so square. It includes one of 4 buildable items. You've got batarangs. You've got the bat signal. I like the bat signal. You've got the 1989 Batmobile and a grappling hook. So they come as pieces and you snap them all together. It's a kit. And you get one of 15 different comics. 9 of them come as though they're sealed and graded. So it'll keep you buying, even if you get the 4 items and you want to try to get everything, you might keep buying them, right? The bat signal lights up. The grappling hook has a little launch. this has little rubber tires, so you can actually push it around. The batarangs exist. They're also there. Anyway, the capsule itself, if you look closely, it is molded to look like a bat cave wall, and it works as a display case for the comic. They sort of clip in there. It is cute. Little things are cute. Little things are cute. These are for sale already on the MGA site for $12.99. I would imagine they'll be in places like Target for like more like 10, but that's just a guess. I don't know. I agree. Yeah, honestly, like the 1989 Batmobile and the Bat Signal are the two coolest one to me. Fake graded comics. I'm gonna get that graded. That would be the move. Get one of these that are all based on like actual real important comics like Death in the Family, Hush, Nightfall. Like, respect for choosing like a kind of interesting blend. I mean, look, obviously my buddy Dave is they would be if they were in Japan. They're a little bigger than that, to be fair, Dave. And actually, now that I think of it, you know, even when you go to like the gacha places, they do have the $5 like higher end ones, the $10 higher end ones. And these are like a little bit more than what you'd get in a regular gacha. But I take your meaning. I do think that they're still overpriced. But you're still going to get them, Dave. You will. Because look, what's this? What was that? Like Batman 232 or something? It was way higher than that. I don't know what it is, but that's Todd McFarlane cover. See Todd by Todd, right? So I feel like you're going to have to get it. 423. I sort of had some of the numbers in there. I just was switched around. Yeah, I had to think of. I wish it was cheaper because I'm not against the tiny comics. Like, I'm not against that. I'll probably get one. I probably will. No. It's just like a cover to look like a book. They do seem to have pages, but there's no way at that scale that they have 22 readable pages. You just couldn't print and bind it at that scale, or not on mass scale. You just couldn't. It's your rule. You've got to get it until you get the Todd McFarlane one. If you guys don't know, one of the things I'm joking about is Dave says, see Todd by Todd. And he had an article, I guess I don't have my copy nearby, but in this current month's Comics, the magazine, he's got an article about some of Todd McFarlane's cool, but not necessarily the top tier that everybody owns. Like, he's sort of like the next tier down. You should get these books. And he's like, his logic is see Todd by Todd. So anyway. So that's interesting to me. I didn't know about that. So you really could print at that scale on a mass level? I meant to move on, but that actually fascinates me. Interesting. Huh. I have a tiny copy of Creepshow about that size, and it is actual pages with text in it. Well, then maybe I'm just making an assumption that isn't true, because I can see that there are pages, and now you folks are saying that there's both Creepshow and Hino Hideshi stuff. Oh, do you? I'd love to see that someday. Anyway, well, all right. Now I'm curious. If it really is like a tiny comic like that, that would make me even more interested. But yeah, I'm going to keep going. But come on. I mean, if this takes off, which it probably will, you've got all the different Batmobiles you could make, as well as like different armor and suits, and how many different tiny comics could they make? Plus, when if this does well, you know, what other DC characters would they do? This is just the beginning, I'm going to say, of like a wave of this stuff. I think that this stuff will do well, but that's just me. Yeah. And I'll go, what is this? A comic for ants? That sounds very fun. I like the Creep Show movies generally, especially the first one. All right. The Stan Lee documentary. The Stan Lee documentary. We haven't talked about that for several months. I thought it was gone. I should have been less naive. So there's a Stan Lee documentary, folks, called The Final Chapter. It was pulled from crowdfunding, but it was apparently secured some form of distribution. Let's talk about it. No. That was Zoolander, Derek Zoolander. What is this? A school for ants? Where's my birthday cake? All right. If somebody just jumped to this chapter, so obnoxious just hearing me do impressions and not talk about the news. So the original project for this, you may remember, it was asking for $300,000 on Kickstarter, but it noted that all the footage had already been filmed, and none of the rewards for the Kickstarter were a copy of the actual movie, not even digitally. It was all just merch with Stan's image. So it was like you could support getting this movie produced, or it was potentially a grift. No way for me to know. It received a lot of fan backlash. That's putting it lightly, in my opinion. And it pulled itself before completion. It had only raised about $48,000, so it was honestly not going to hit its goal. So I think they took these guys took my likeness and got a lot of excitement going, but I said, no, I'll haunt you if you see this all the way through. My fans need me in the ground, not on the silver screen. I don't know what I'm saying. The documentary purports to expose how Stan Lee's former manager, Max Anderson, allegedly swindled the comics legend out of millions, and is comprised of footage filmed by John Bolerjack. He's the director of the film. He's an assistant during those years. He watched it all happen. A big part of the backlash was not just the money that was being asked for and the fact that you didn't get a copy of the movie. It was asking the question of, why is this guy saying, like, look at what all these guys were doing, when he's there the whole time? It wasn't like he was there for a day or two. He was there for like 4 years of seeing this. Unless the documentary sort of shows that he did, I guess we don't know for 100% sure. Yeah, but what was he doing the whole time? Very, very strange. Very, very strange. Miller Fillmore here, and if you vote for me, no new taxes, and I'll promise not to build any bridges to any foreign countries. My opponent wants to build a bridge all the way to Europe. I tell you, it can't be done. I'm Millard Fillmore. It was a perfect impression if you don't know. All right. Stan's daughter, his only child, J.C. Lee, eventually accused Max Anderson of stealing at least a little over $11 million that her father earned by signing autographs, and at least $10.2 million in appearance fees. That's a massive amount of money. Anderson denied ever handling money of those events. From the clips, it does not seem like that's true. Anyway, it's going to come out July 23rd at Comic-Con and July 28th on video on demand. So, if you're curious, you can see what it is. See, but here's what the difference would be. If you're already a documentarian and you choose a subject, fair enough. You're trying not to interfere, kind of like a scientist. You're there most to observe and not to influence. But that's not the full role that he had, is it? He was an assistant for Stan. He worked for Stan. So, the fact that he filmed all this and made a documentary afterwards is incidental. His primary role was to work for Stan. And therefore, as part of that, I would say he had a moral obligation, if not a legal one, to watch out for Stan on some level. it'd be different if it was somebody that never met Stan in the world and said, can I get permission to follow you around to convention appearances for the next 2 years? We're thinking of making a documentary. And then that's the story that they find. That's very different from being somebody that was a party to everything that went on. I hope you can understand the difference there. Yeah, watching what amounts to an ongoing crime happening and not doing anything is an accessory. I sincerely think, depending on the little that we know, because we don't know the full story until, like, the documentary comes out and etc. But yeah, like, could Stan's daughter, for instance, have a legal case against this guy if it comes out and he's just sitting there doing nothing for like 4 years of this abuse? I mean, you might be digging your own hole there. I don't know. Oh, that's interesting. See, I don't know the full story. He says, I believe he did go to authorities. Well, it was a joke. Sorry, Wally. I sincerely didn't know that. I can't tell from just text. Thank you for the support. Thanks to you and your community. That's true. For the great discussions. Well, hey, double salute. Thank you for the support. It's, yeah, it just seems ugly to me. It just seems ugly to me. I think a movie about Stan's life, not by Disney or Marvel, just by somebody trying to talk about his life, don't get me wrong, it's going to be an interesting story, his entire life. But focusing on his final years here, too depressing for me. Not for me. Too depressing. Speaking of Marvel, let's get into what I put in the thumbnail. This is kind of earth-shaking kind of news. These are 2 photos, by the way, of Marvel through the years. On the top is Marvel in the Golden Age. This is Timely Comics. That's Stan himself there. And then this is them in the 90s, the bullpen in the 90s. These are a bunch of, I think, interns doing different tasks. But anyway, Marvel had a town hall style meeting this past Thursday. They did that at Marvel's New York office in Midtown. They announced that the publisher is going to be leaving New York City, moving to Burbank, where parent company Disney is located. I think the main thing that prompted this, by the way, you got to read between the lines, but their lease for their offices, I forget the name of the building off the top of my head, but the name of their building in Manhattan, they lease their spaces, that was coming to an end next year. So they were either going to have to re-up that lease, and in Manhattan, where real estate is at a premium, certainly in Midtown, you need to agree to long-term contracts, or they were going to have to move. And if you're going to move, I think what their logic was let's move you closer to where our corporate offices are. It's what DC did. But anyway, also announced, and this is to me the kind of the bigger news right now, but it's at least equitable. But veteran editor Stephen Wacker, he's worked for Marvel, he's worked for DC, he's done other stuff in comics, but an editor that's got a lot of success under his belt, he's going to be taking over the role of editor-in-chief. So Marvel has a new editor-in-chief coming. Some of the stuff Stephen was in charge with, I'm trying to think. Well, maybe I put it in the notes here. Let me see. Let me go through some of the bullet points. I might have mentioned some of it. C.B. Cebulski has had the role of editor-in-chief since 2017. I believe that makes him the 3rd longest tenured editor-in-chief. Pretty sure Stan and Joe Quesada are the top 2. Well, I'd have to double check, actually. Yeah, I think that they're still the top 2, and I think CB did hold it for longer than Jim Shooter. Anyway, CB is moving to Tokyo, and he's going to head up an initiative to produce Marvel books as manga as editor Asia Originals. So let the Akira Yoshida jokes begin. I'm not going to be surprised at that. Katsuhiro Otomo created CB Cebulski. The town hall was held by Kevin Feige, as well as Marvel's head of television, animation, comics, and franchise, newly appointed, Brad Winderbaum. Also, David Abdo, newly installed as general manager, comics and franchise. But basically the hierarchy at Marvel is Kevin Feige, who reports to Disney, and then Brad Winderbaum, who's in charge of obviously a lot of different things, and then basically TV, animation, and comics. And the editor-in-chief reports to Brad Winderbaum. Marvel is now seeking to have all of the New York-based employees of the comics and franchise group, which is just over 100 people, relocate to California by July of 2027. They're making offers anyway. But obviously a lot of people won't be able to take them up on that due to maybe like family or growth potential. There's a lot of concerns moving across the country. I moved across the country, and on some levels, I'm glad I did it for Chrissy and to be closer to her parents. In the moment, it seemed like it was going to be great for my career long term. It kind of screwed it over, but these are the decisions you have to make. DC left for Burbank back in 2015, work at the Warner Brothers studios. So New York, for the first time ever, is no longer the hometown for a major comic publisher. So much history of New York City. Gotham and Metropolis are clearly based on different elements of New York City, and most of the Marvel heroes exist in New York City. At the time, most of the creators lived there or near enough. Not all, but most. But now we live in a much more connected world, a global world, where writers and artists live across the country and honestly across the world. So it's not strictly necessary to be in any one place. There are advantages to potentially being in a town that has other publishing contacts or different entertainment contacts. So it's a little sad, though, to me, because I think New York is just in the DNA of superhero comics. It's a little bit of a bummer. But Stephen Wacker is not a bad choice at all, and a little bit outside the box for me because he wasn't currently working for Marvel, so they're bringing him back. And it's interesting. They looked at somebody that has a lot of experience, as well as experience with Marvel, but maybe also some ideas from outside. Some of the things Wacker oversaw, I know he was overseeing Daredevil when it was at a creative high. I want to say maybe the Chip Zdarsky era. Stephen Wacker oversaw the people putting together Ms. Marvel, who's definitely one of the better newer characters that Marvel has created. And CB Cebulski's run, I think, is just, it's a lot of hit and miss. He did oversee some high points. I'm not going to take everything away from him. I think that Jonathan Hickman's House of X, Powers of 10, and the beginning of the Krakoa era was a huge hit for Marvel and a big creative high point. There have been good runs with Daredevil. Spider-Man got a lot of criticism, but sold very, very well when Zeb Wells was doing it. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that Stephen Wacker did work on 52 at DC. Yeah, it just culturally is. New York is such a superhero town, and it's just a little sad to lose some of that. But I look at CB Cebulski, and he's got a lot of lows too. I think in the last few years, Marvel has just been sort of going through the motions. Thank you very much, Steve. Sugar-free Mountain Dew Baja Blast for all troopers. You're keeping me going, man. You're keeping me going. I was going to give CB credit for that. Yeah, he's the guy that brought Peach in. I don't think he's done a lot of other stuff that's been successful with like Asia, but there is potential there. You know, he does speak Japanese. Sending him to Asia to try to set up Marvel manga is a good idea. If you've been to Japan in the last, I'll say 10 years, you will see that Japan does love Marvel. They've got Marvel merch everywhere. Now, they've tried to do some manga collaborations with Shueisha. They recently ended that. It wasn't a failure, but it also wasn't a big success. But I think you need more boots on the ground to make that work, you know? But they love Marvel. They just do. There's Marvel merch everywhere you go. New York City's Marvel HQ should be a historically significant building. Unfortunately, they actually moved around a number of times. So DC stayed in one place way, way longer and had this amazing mural that I saw once. Really, really cool. But Marvel moved around several times, so they don't quite have the same history, really. Keep you going one Baja Blast at a time. That's true. Hey, I appreciate the support a lot. It's just that I would say the last bit of innovation that Marvel had was just over 2 years ago launching a new version of the Ultimate Universe, which even saying that, you're like, well, a new version. They have done that before. They have. But at least it was successful, you know? And it's been a while, though, since they really let creators run wild with an idea and be creator first instead of just keep everything moving. I think a little too much under Cebulski trying to tie things in synergistically with the films rather than just tell a good story. But there have been little high points here and there. Like I will say Immortal Hulk, that was a good one. That was a damn good one. Yeah, I'd have to like sort of pull up a whole list of what happened under each person, but I feel like Cebulski's run was kind of just continuing on the same train that Alex Alonso had started. Whereas I look at Jim Shooter and I look at Joe Quesada, and there are things to complain about with each of those guys. You know, Shooter was like, we're doing it my way. But there were a lot of excellent comics that came out under his run. And Quesada didn't always knock the ball out of the park, but he took really big swings, and a lot of them worked. Without Quesada, Marvel was was in bankruptcy, and their ideas were failing. And if Quesada and Palmiotti hadn't come in with Marvel Knights, Marvel just might not be anywhere right now. They really might not. Their characters would be, but they might have been bought up or something like that. That was a thing too. Quesada did have good relationships with a lot of top creators. Anyway, lots to talk about there. You know, maybe I'll just do a comic tropes about the highs and lows of CB Cebulski. That would be more of a story time, me talking about it, but might be kind of interesting. I'd have to do it this week. I'll give it some thought. No, always nice to have you here. Talking about the editors-in-chief at Marvel, you know, there's about, you got to give, I guess, Stan that hat and the early days of what he did interesting. Him, Jim Shooter, Joe Quesada, they're the most interesting ones to talk about, those three. But CB Cebulski's the most recent, and he was in that role for quite a while, almost 10 years. He had some good hits, but he had a lot of bad ones too. Yeah, the Pacific Northwest has, Image, Dark Horse. Who else have they got up here? I don't know. We'll keep going. More Marvel stuff. Marvel announced that they've got a new way that they're going to do variant covers, they're going to always do at least 5 variant covers for every issue of their upcoming Midnight Universe titles. They will always have a minimum of 5, but those 5 will all be the same concept. So, for instance, here's one. Regular, the main series cover. Got it. Then they're going to have a Bloodbath variant cover for B, a blood-soaked cover. That's this is supposed to be an example of that, like Ryan Stegman drawing Mr. Fantastic just bleeding and gross all over the place. That's fun to look at every month. Oh man, Marvel really needs to increase its incentive programs because they're just not getting new ideas enough. I agree with you 1,000%, Andy. That is the biggest thing they could do. Hey, thank you for the support. All right, so we've got regular, we've got extra bloody. What was C? C is a spotlight cover showcasing a midnight reimagining of a Marvel hero. Sounds to me like a long shot of like, are people interested in this character in the Midnight Universe? But here's Peach Momoko doing, I would guess, Black Cat, right? I mean, who else could that be? Cover D will always be covers inspired by iconic horror images. I'll show you one. For instance, they took Fright Night and turned that into X-Men. I got to admit, that's eye-catching. Of course, it's like taking an idea that already exists, and they're just saying, like, yeah, we're going to do an homage every week. Okay. And then they're going to have E, prestige painted covers of the Midnight Universe. And to be clear, they're not saying those 5 and nothing else. They'll have other variants, but they'll always have A, B, C, D, and E. That's why I included that one. I was like, I got to admit, that's well done. That's really cool looking. Plus, apparently, X-Men is mutants versus vampires. That's the premise. Yeah, I mean, you've got, of course, tons of movies, right? You've got tons of movies you could, but you've got other things in the world of horror too. You've got novels, you've got other horror comics. So we'll see how long it can last, but yeah. By the way, Fright Night, pretty good movie. The remake, also a pretty good movie. Anyway. Oh, good point, Noah. Yeah, I'm sure they will, actually, especially if they're saying they're going to do prestige painted covers. They'll get Mark Spears in on that. They have to. They have to right now. Yeah, at least 5. In Marvel's press release for this, I was like, okay, 5. And then I'm looking at some and I'm going, oh, what category does that fit in? And then I look at the bottom and they have letters like H and I, and I go, oh, they're still doing more than just A, B, C, D, E. Got it. Okay. Got it. Here's the premises of the 3 books they're launching. Midnight Spider-Man #1. Spider-Man discovers that with great power comes something monstrous. I guess he looks like a real weirdo. Okay. Gross. Midnight Fantastic Four, a scientist's curiosity accidentally unleashes ancient terrors upon the world while also transforming himself and 3 others in strange and horrifying ways. Got to be honest, out of the 3 that they're launching, that's the one that sounds the most interesting to me. The idea of a Fantastic Four that, unlocks something like, demonic or something. I got to admit, I like that idea. Dude, I had no idea. That's really, really cool. That's really cool. Rest in peace to Anton Yelchin. I thought he was so cool in that movie. I thought David Tennant was fantastic. That's really cool, Andy. That's really cool. Anyway, Midnight X-Men #1, the X-Men versus vampires. As simple as that, which could be good. Who knows? I don't know. That's interesting. A couple people are saying Fright Night 2 is underrated. I'll be honest, I didn't see Fright Night 2. Does it still have the cast from the first one? Or at least, does it still have like the same villain? Or is it just like Charlie and what's his nuts from the Planet of the Apes movies. I described that as well as you could describe a movie. Oh, man. I like both the OG Fright Night and the remake. Yeah, there's a few movies out there that have remakes that maybe weren't necessary, but I go, oh, you know what? I still like the remake. Gotta say, Dawn of the Dead, while I prefer the original, I do. Gotta say, the Dawn of the Dead remake by James Gunn and Zack Snyder, I like it. I think it's really cool. The Villain's Sister. You know what? I'll check it out. Hey, Charlie, what's his nuts? The guy with the face. Yeah, I definitely considered that, and I was like, Farrell's kind of used a lot of these ideas already. But I guess another person could do it too. Oh, Roddy McDowell is back. Okay. Well, cool. I got to see it then. I got to see it. All right. Enough talking about Fright Night, okay? Actually, you know what? I might enjoy talking about Fright Night on Trash Movie Bonanza. I don't know if it quite fits because I don't know if that's really a cult hit or schlock. It's just kind of a good movie. Oh, man. I saw the remake of The Fog. Who that had Superboy in it. Tom Welling, right? And who is that other actress? I used to like her, but I think she's gone super ultra right wing, if I remember right. What's her name? She was in the first Hellboy movie. Oh, I can't remember her name now. Really? You hated it? I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was good. Oh, well, that's an understandable. Now we understand where you came up with that. Yeah, got it. Selma Blair, yeah. Yeah, I saw it, and I barely know that The Fog got remade. It was one of the most forgettable movies you've ever seen in your life. So forgettable. It's just sort of like, yeah, a few things happened. The end. All right. Speaking a little bit more of variants, look at this. This is a Chip Zdarsky Smile variant, and I would be all for him making Smile variants of as many Marvel books as he wants to make. But here's why I'm talking about it. So he was on the Sketched podcast this past week, and the topic of blind bags came up. In a way, how can it not these days? Zdarsky said he thought it could potentially be a dangerous road to be going down, but that he's recently softened his stance because he started to see how some people really enjoy collecting a specific artist and enjoy getting even just that cover. And he was like, that's a valid way to enjoy comics. So he softened his stance. Here's a quote. "We're doing a blind bag for Avengers #1. He's writing that reboot. And I'm like, how do we make that fun? How are we going to do that and make it something interesting? Those are the conversations I have to have with Marvel. I'm sure I'll be doing some dumb sketches in there." I hope he comes up with something fun. I like the idea of Gachapon and sort of blind bags. I'm a little burned out on them now, minus potentially what they do at Skybound, because Skybound surprises us, right? Battle Beast included things like Invincible and Spider-Man as an issue, or Battle Beast issue 2. Mask in the Energon universe. You could get a copy of ROM #1. Like that's fun. That you can get stuff that you wouldn't expect. You can also just get cover A. So anyway, who knows what he'll come up with, but this past week he invented a Smile variant. This was in stores this past Wednesday, where he drew the classic Mike Zeck cover for Captain America Annual #8. By the way, that is one of my favorite Mike Zeck pieces of artwork. Yeah. You know what? It's not a bad idea, Andy, because Marvel did at least have things like, say, original art by guys like Robert Downey Jr. But I got to imagine an actual cosmic cube that grants you wishes probably costs a little bit less than Robert Downey Jr.'s art. I got to admit. Yeah, sometimes it's just some variant covers, and you're like, okay, I don't know. They should do different things. Well, if we're going to be cynical, maybe, but I don't know. I think Chip legit is a guy that wants to make comics fun and engaging. I really do believe that. I think he's pretty passionate about it. And so, yeah, I believe that he wants to make something fun for issue 1. I don't know if he'll come up with something. Another Chip Zdarsky thing, but we're done with Marvel. Bye, Marvel. Actor, comedian, producer, Kumail Nanjiani. Awesome dude. Posted the first look, seen here, of the cast for the upcoming Sex Criminals TV adaptation. He posted to Threads this photo of actors Imogen Poots and John Reynolds and himself. And I'm sorry that I couldn't figure out who this is. And he wrote, first look at the cast of Sex Criminals. Yes, everyone is cute, and you all just have to deal with it. Kumail and his wife, Emily V. Gordon, are producing the show, along with a comic publisher and Hollywood writer-producer, Tse Chun. And Kumail's also starring in the show. Poots and Reynolds star as the main characters, Suze and John. They're two people, if you haven't read the comic, it isn't spoiling it, this is just the premise. They each can stop time when they have sex, and then they meet each other, and they're like, oh, we both can do it? And now it stops it for even longer, and we can control when it will be stopped. So they decide to use their ability to start robbing banks. The comic began back in 2013 from writer Matt Fraction, artist Chip Zdarsky. They did 31 issues plus a special, all at Image Comics. They've got some other cast members in this. Pamela Adlon, I think she's always a solid addition. She plays Suze's mom. B.D. Wong is in the show as an important bank manager. Nanjiani plays somebody called Dane. I don't know who that is yet. I don't know who that could be. No one announced yet to play the police officer that they all call Kegel Face. So I don't know who that will be yet. That hasn't been announced. But I'm looking forward to the show. I don't know how... I'm trying to think of like how long it could reasonably go. You could probably do about an hour based on each comic, theoretically. But it's probably like just like a 2-season type show. Oh, he plays Dane Cook. Okay, well, good. Marvel was in New York. You couldn't just drop in, just to be clear. Well, you couldn't these days. You could 20 years ago. And I did. Once. That's a story. Dropping into New York, Marvel and DC's headquarters, unannounced. Did not get a formal tour or greeted well or anything, but they let me into the lobbies of each one. My friend and I walked an insane amount because this was before the internet and we didn't know how far away we were, and we walked miles and miles. We got so tired, kept thinking that we were getting close. We got so tired, we walked into a Holiday Inn and just kept checking the elevator until we found where the cleaning carts were, which floor, and then we just went as soon as we just went to one of the rooms where like the cleaning ladies were leaving, and we just took a nap. We could have gotten in so much trouble, but we just went in and took a nap in a Holiday Inn. Just to be clear, if you could stop time by having sex, you could sneak into Marvel HQ back then. But these days, if you do it, you'll get, just an orgasm. Times have changed. Let's talk about some exclusives that Image is going to have at San Diego. They do sound kind of cool. they're going to have a bunch of ashcan versions of upcoming comics, exclusives at limited quantities at booth 1915. So you got the Hammer Fist ashcan, $10. If you don't know, an ashcan is basically just a published version of a comic to secure a copyright. So it doesn't need to necessarily be a certain quality or a certain print run. There are examples of Marvel or DC, especially DC, publishing literal black and white Xerox copies just to like file copies with what is it? I forget where you file something to get the copyright recognized, but you can file a book with someone, and that counts, and just to retain copyright. But anyway, Hammer Fist is Rick Remender and Steve Epting. Very cool combo. It's about a dirtbag hitman, gets a supernatural weapon, and it's only powered by love. And he's on a mission to save his daughter, the one thing he loves. We've got Crowbound by Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen. Again, $10. Dark fantasy where Rose has to leave the factory, which is basically this huge city, and outside of that, there's nothing, or it's wastelands. She has to venture into an unknown world to save her daughter. A lot of saving daughters. We've got the Carmen Blade, also $10. Darcy Van Polgeest, Ian Bertram. A young man is chosen by a mystical blade to free his land from a tyrannical god. He's not old enough to have a daughter to save. Sorry. Yo, that I bet that's worth a little something. That's really, really cool. It's not the patent office, but it's like the patent office. There's somewhere where you always send one copy of your magazine or book. There's like a U.S. office of some sort, and it just archives it, and boom, you've got a claim. What else we got? The Last Driver. This sounds pretty interesting. That's all by Sean Murphy. In a future America, an outlaw known as Clutch drives a car, which are now illegal. Everything's handled by robots. Anyway, to save his granddaughter, not his daughter this time. It might be the Library of Congress. Thank you. It might be. Yeah, so save daughter, save granddaughter, save everyone. And then, of course, we already kind of knew from, 2 weeks ago now? But we've got Chain Kata. That's $20. Again, I guess that's just what the market is dictating, right? Like, because this one's going to get flipped for a lot. I've definitely thought about it before, so that's a strong possibility. That's a strong possibility, yes. Anyway, that's sci-fi epic with women battling with chainsaws in space. $20. And so anyway, these are all the full comic. It's just that it's a limited edition. They each have probably a different cover than the main one. And yeah, you can get that. They're limited quantities, but if you're going to San Diego, you might want to get it. Look at this guy just working as free press flack for Daniel Warren Johnson, who does need the help. So it's nice that you're helping that poor guy out. He'll get somewhere someday if he keeps working hard. How many of those Taken movies did they make? Like 3? They took my mail. What do you run up? What gets taken after, they took my daughter, they took my wife, they took my next door neighbor. I don't really like her, but she borrowed my lawnmower and I need it back. I've got a certain set of skills. Maybe you didn't know, but the most dangerous animal in the world is a wolf. If by the time you've seen a wolf, the wolf has killed you. They took my pogs. Taken 5. They took my pogs. They took my blood pressure. They didn't like the results, but I'm going to get it back. They took my order. That's okay, I guess. That one's just a TV episode, a TV special. The first Taken, kind of fun for what it is, right? It's kind of one of the first geezer teasers that, what's his name? Liam Neeson made. And it's got this hilarious scene where he's chasing a guy and he jumps over a fence. And I guess Liam Neeson just could not easily jump over the fence, because if you break down that scene, which is like a couple seconds, it has like 20 edits to it. It's the most chaotically edited action beat I've ever seen in my entire life. I love it. I love how crazy it is. Cut, 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 cut. It's like him just like moving a tiny bit over. It's like almost stop motion getting over the fence. It's so good. Yeah, super over edited. Super over edited. Both tough characters. I guess Denzel is kind of portrayed as like the ultimate. So he probably Denzel. Yeah, he's 55 then, and what is he now? He's like in his 70s, and he's still like doing action movies. It's kind of funny. As long as we're talking about Image, we got to talk about what is on everybody's mind, Avengelyne. Rob Liefeld's bringing Avengelyne back. Not in POG form, but in comic book form. A new series at Image this October. He's going to write. He's got an artist for it. They said Daniel Manet is going to be the main artist. That's how they described it. So I don't know what that means, whether that just means there's backups or if they haven't locked him in for a long-term contract or what. The original 1995 comic featured a fallen angel protecting a girl known as the One who would save humanity. Fine. Olivia Wilde is supposedly attached to direct an Avengelyne feature for Warner Brothers. Oh, I didn't finish typing this, but with Margot Robbie producing. I don't necessarily see that one going all the way to production, though. I just don't. I think Olivia Wilde's career has stalled out a little bit, and I don't know that like Avengelyne really has any name recognition. So you're left with the premise of, you know, a pretty girl, fallen angel protecting, you know, a prophesied savior, and it's fine. It's just a little generic. Anyway, on his site, Liefeld is selling either a regular Comic-Con exclusive edition for $40. Hey, it's not as much as Jim Lee charged, right? Well, it's not Jim charging that. That's technically Torpedo Comics, but still. Anyway, or you can get a foil version for $70, and you can pick them up at the convention on Friday. Well, I thought was her last movie the one with that wife in like the super old-fashioned society, the one where she started having an affair with Harry Styles? Or did she make one after that? I don't remember. The Invite? I don't think I know The Invite. I'm just curious now. The Invite. So she directed another movie? Oh, 2026. Okay. Seth Rogen. She's in it too. Penelope Cruz. Ed Norton. Okay. Did I see a trailer for this? Some sort of like pair of couples. Okay. I don't know that one. No, not for me. Gonna keep moving. Congratulations to Tyler Kirkham. He's teaming up with a game studio called BitBot to make a side-scrolling beat-em-up video game adaptation of his Image comic Final Boss, which is basically like a video game come to life. The game is a side-scroller. It also has some one-on-one fighting style stages. Leans into its influences. Comic came out last November, fairly recent. Follows a powered street-level enforcer named Tommy Brazen, who takes on brutal fights for hire while uncovering a hidden past that pulls him into escalating video game-style battle world. So he has to keep fighting tougher and tougher bosses. Anyway, the game is available to wishlist on Steam right now, and more details are expected to come out at San Diego Comic-Con. But I think that's fun. You know, he made a comic based on the video games that he loved growing up, and now he actually gets to make a video game version of it. I haven't read it. I'm just happy for him. That sounds cool to me. I think that sounds nice. Anybody here read Final Boss? I haven't read it. Although at the same time, I hear that and I think of stuff these days like Ready Player One and Dungeon Crawler Carl. And having read both now, Ready Player One was fine. It was whatever. It was fine. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It was fine. But I'm really into the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. I'm pretty far into book number 4 now. You've talked to Tyler? That's nice. I've never met him. Final Boss is a cool book. Over the top violence. Okay, that's fun. That's fun. Yeah, all right. I'll keep moving. Speaking of video games and comics, Konami and Mad Cave will team up to produce a comic book based on the 1987 Nintendo game Contra. People of a certain age definitely played this. Even if you didn't own it, you played it at a friend's house. I didn't get a Nintendo until like way late, right at the very end. We just didn't have a Nintendo growing up, and then we sort of got one when it was like radically discounted. So I didn't play too many of the games, but at home, I should say. But I did a lot of babysitting jobs for like extra money, and a lot of people had a Nintendo. So I played my fair share of Contra once the kids went to bed. The spread gun was good. I do remember that much. Love Contra. I remember Contra from the arcade. The most famous code in all of video games, right? Up, up, down, down, left, right, B, A, start. And you get 99 lives. Yeah. Yep. Of course, you're the perfect age for it. Yeah. Because I think of people a little younger will also know, but that is the perfect age to have played Contra. It was at 30, guys, but you could do it like 3 or 4 times. They're not going to get permission. What's funny is if you look at this cover, before I talk about the news, the artist here absolutely traced this stuff. This alien that they put in here, that's definitely traced off of a specific thing from the movie Alien. This is Dutch from Predator. That's Arnold Schwarzenegger. And then this, a lot of people at the time thought because of the headband and dark hair that it was Rambo, but it's actually Michael Biehn. Michael Biehn from, I think from Aliens. So yeah, they traced all 3 elements, but it's still a pretty famous cover. It's going to be a 12-issue series, debuts in January, so it's still a little ways off. Mad Cave's license for this covers United States, Canada, Latin America, UK, Ireland, Australia, and New Zealand. Essentially all the English-speaking areas. The premise of the original Japanese game, I'll point out, because I'll explain. But the premise of the game, and you had to like understand the premise by most of the time reading the manual, because the game didn't always back then tell you the story. Sometimes not. In the year 2633, the terrorist organization Red Falcon establishes a base on the fictional Galaga archipelago near New Zealand and begins a plan to destroy humanity and conquer Earth. The Earth government sends 2 elite soldiers from the Contra unit, Bill Reiser and Lance Bean, on a mission to infiltrate the island, destroy Red Falcon, and discover the truth behind the mysterious alien force controlling the organization. I know that when the American version came out, the manual said, like, it didn't pretend it was in the future. It pretended like it was in modern day jungle was where it started. And I think that was because Predator had recently come out and they were just trying to, kind of mimic the success of Predator. I never thought about that, but maybe that is a reference to classic video game stuff. Maybe. Controversy. Anyway, Contra was fun. Contra was also, for me, it was a little tough. I did like it. It was a well-designed game. It looked good. It sounded good. But I do think it was a tough game. I do think it was tough. Yeah, Life Force comic. That will get you arrested, sir. Contra was literally years of my youth with my friends. Yeah. forget about it. Predator sort of lucked into becoming a damn good franchise because the second movie was not much of a hit at the time. But looking back at it, it's pretty fun for what it is. And then they do, like the Alien versus Predator movies. And, that gets a mixed reaction. The second one you can barely see because it's so dark. But the first one I do think is kind of fun. And then you get Predators, and that was a good movie. Then you sort of get The Predator, which was a terrible movie. But then we're eating good with all the latest ones, right? Prey, Badlands, Killer of Killers. All of a sudden, Predator, in the last few years, you look back and you're like, there's some damn good stuff in there. There's some really good stuff. Contra was famously bullshit, the definition of a quarter muncher. Yeah, but probably you could get further on the arcade version because you could just keep getting lives, I only played Contra with Konami code. If I messed up the sequence, I'd literally start over because it was too hard, no fun in normal mode. Yeah, you needed all those lives. You really did. But anyway, the most famous code, I would say, I can't think of another code that even comes close to being as well remembered as the Contra code. I don't think I played that one. I know what you're talking about, but I don't think I ever played Rygar. Sorry. An Excite Bike comic. Yes. That's me doing a jump. I want to see a Paperboy comic. Which franchise has had more legit good movies, Predator or Alien? All right, fair. Let's see, legit good. So I'll say that Predator. I'm not going to include like Predator 2. I'll say Predator, Predators, Prey, Badlands. 4 good movies. Now I go to Alien. Alien and Aliens. And then it's going to be a big debate. I liked Prometheus. Not Prometheus. I liked, what was the most recent one? Romulus I liked a lot. This is taking me back to early YouTube. Who is the set of guys that would make video game based sketch comedy where they're actually messing with people, sort of doing like live pranks? I want to say something like Mega 64. Do I have that right? I probably have that right, but if it's not, one of the funnier things they ever did, in my opinion, was in the game Paperboy. You avoid all these sort of things like people exercising and doing stunts on their bike and moving glass back and forth. And they went out with a bunch of friends first thing in the morning, and they had all these people stand in the middle of the street doing those things. And like this poor guy trying to deliver papers in his car just like comes up, and there's people like, popping wheelies on their bike and moving glass back and forth. It was one of the funniest things I ever saw when I first saw it. It made me laugh a lot. Okay, I'm remembering it right. Mega 64. I haven't looked them up in a very long time, but everybody's telling me that I do have that right. That was so good. Oh, man. I don't know if they ever did a Contra one. Contra. All right, moving forward. Dude, I'm just including this because this idea cracks me up. That is, if you're not clear, a centaur riding a unicorn. I love it. So this is an upcoming crowdfunded project for a comic called Centaur Riders, and I'm going to guess on this, Cataphract Legacy? What? What is that? Cataphract Legacy? And yeah, like I said, it's apparently about centaurs riding on unicorns. Illuminous, the production and creative services company founded by Joe Illich. He did tons of stuff at DC and Milestone. He's developing the project, or his company is, which was created by a guy named Danny Porter. So we've got 2 people. But then the Kickstarter plans to make a 64-page comic written by Charlie Fraffman and drawn by Marco Torrini. That's a lot of creators for this. It follows Artemis, the last Centaur, as he tries to find the truth of what happened to his people. Good luck, Artemis. Anyway, you can find a bunch of pages by Turini and links to the Kickstarter at centaurriders.com if that interests you. I just wanted to talk about the idea of, a horse type of beast riding on another horse type of beast, which is great. Jimothy riding a raccoon mount. Exactly. The cover has everything. Everything you need. Just hot girl up front, just standing there. Hey, how are you? How do you do? This is a wild concept for a comic. It demands sacrifice. So Bad Idea is going to release a comic by the director of Brightburn, David Yarevsky, and the writer of a bunch of episodes of, I think the most episodes of Love, Death, and Robots, Philip Galat, illustrated by Adam Polina, pretty famous for X-Force. The limited series will come out in October, but Bad Idea will also give out free copies of the comic at their panel on Friday at San Diego Comic-Con. What's it about? You can see that there's a goat, there's the word sacrifice. Here's what it is. The story follows Bronson. Is Bronson in the chat? I'm just curious. Anyway, but there's Bronson, and he's the runt of a litter of goats, of a tight-knit family on a farm. And his family gets kidnapped by a satanic cult, and he's forced to step up and be brave to save his family before they're sacrificed. So it's told from the point of view of a goat. That's wild. I kind of like that, to be honest. I kind of like that. Interesting. I sort of have an idea, but hey, thank you very much. Coming in 2027. Chris Pierce returns in Martin Scorsese's Mr. Whiskers. Oh, I'm just an old man. There's no way I'm a secret FBI agent. Just an old man here. Just came here to get your Metamucilin. Stick 'em up. I'm secretly young and healthy. I'm a modest 51-year-old FBI agent. I haven't seen Adam Polina do something either in a while. So good for him. It's just such a wild idea. I had to share it. So yeah, could be fun. Could be really cool. What else we got? A few more pieces of news. Okay, so AfterShock Comics. Anybody remember AfterShock? They filed for bankruptcy, Chapter 11 bankruptcy, to restructure in 2022. Last year, they announced that they were in the process of coming out of it. While they haven't announced any new titles, this week they announced a new partnership with GlobalComix to host some of their best-known titles on the digital reading platform. What do we got? As of the 15th, so last new comic book day, people with a gold subscription, they can read things like Animosity, Astronaut Down, that one's being made into a Netflix show, Dreaming Eagles, Insects, Jimmy's Bastards, Replica, Super Zero. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talent involved here. Garth Ennis, Paul Jenkins, Jimmy Palmiotti, Marguerite Bennett, a lot of Rafael De La Torre. He's a great artist, really almost underrated, I would say. But so a lot of stuff. But this is all stuff that has been in print before, to be clear. Many creators did accuse AfterShock of not being paid properly just before they announced their bankruptcy. But I have not found any follow-up articles as to whether people were ever paid properly. So I feel like I won't be surprised if in a week or so we hear some of these creators, if they didn't get paid, going like, why is my comic being distributed this way? Because I need to be paid. Was Garth pretty heavily involved in AfterShock? I mean, I know he wrote several titles for them, but I don't remember how involved he was. Let's see what kind of interest there is in the digital copies. Hey, thank you. Fun fact. David Yarevsky was my counselor at camp one year, And his old band was called Bad Idea. So I guess he used that name for the comic company. Oh, that's wild. Thanks for sharing the story. That's really, really cool. That's really cool. It feels like a small world sometimes, doesn't it? People that we, might know close or might just have a passing relationship with can go on to become celebrities of sorts. Yeah. All right. This one surprised me, but apparently comicbook.com has quietly laid off some of their staff. I say this because while their site still lists Simon Gallagher as their executive editor, and that's a position he's held before at Screen Rant and What Culture, he posted this week that he was let go without any explanation. Look at this. As of 90 or so minutes ago, I am no longer employed by comicbook.com. I wish my former workmates nothing but good fortune. I didn't even notice because I was putting my son to bed. I'd love to tell you a reason why, but apparently I'm not worthy of one myself. Ouch! As somebody who has gone through 2 companies that downsized and with no warning, I was laid off with a bunch of other people. I gotta say, it sucks. It sucks to be laid off. It's like if you got fired, there might be a reason for it, right? But to just get laid off, it just sucks. Chris Arant, the editor-in-chief at Popverse, added more to this on Twitter, saying also departing this month are its social media manager, Christine Gooden, and content strategist, James Hunt, although the terms of their exit aren't public. Okay. The last time comicbook.com had layoffs was August of 2024, but that was very specifically because Paramount owned that site and some others, and they sold them to Savage Ventures. And so the company, found people redundant. But anyway, if I'm honest, it's not a site that I read a lot, but I don't like seeing a comic publisher or a comic book news site, go through this. And I just feel for these people. To get laid off with no notice is just a really tough thing to go through. Lots of sympathy and empathy. Maybe by talking about it, somebody else in the industry will hear about it and reach out, and these people can find a job. I have no idea. That's the long shot. Yeah. Yeah, it's just the worst. Oh, no kidding. That guy was making indie films that young. It's impressive. Shows that he was passionate about something. Yeah. Let's talk about Silver Sprocket, an indie publisher, real quick. So this past Friday, a group called Silver Sprocket Artists Collective released a public statement that Silver Sprocket has not kept clear financial records, and many artists haven't been paid properly or even in some cases at all. Not good. Apparently, this has been a conversation going on for over a year with the artists and the owner of Silver Sprocket, Avi Ehrlich, the publisher and comic store owner. The physical location closed this year, but they still exist as an online store. But there was no movement. Nothing was happening with these conversations. So the group released their concerns publicly. The Comics Journal released an article about the lack of royalty payments and the lack of proper accounting. The statement that was released concurrently, signed by 44 artists. That's quite a bit. That's quite a lot of people saying that they're not getting paid properly. What else? The agreement for artists in Silver Sprocket seems very straightforward at first. It calls for a 50-50 split of revenue after the expenses to publish. But the artists argue that the terms do not explain that it's going to take apparently at least 18 months to pay back the printing costs, which sounds like an exceptionally long time, and that monies used for promotion were sometimes taken out of their side of that 50-50 without even being consulted. So it's sort of like, oh, so functionally, they were saying functionally we get more like 25, not 50. Anyway, the group has a page with details on how you can help them, and it enumerates their concerns with way more detail than I can give you in just a brief snippet of the news. But I was disappointed. I've read several Silver Sprocket indie books. I think, them publishing, I think, Pee Pee Poo Poo by Carolyn Cash got Carolyn the sort of visibility, and now they do the what's the comic book that they just took over? Gotta look it up. All of a sudden I'm blanking because I'm bad at names. Nancy. Caroline Cash just took over Nancy. Anyway. So good luck to all those artists. That's kind of heartbreaking to hear that they're having trouble getting paid, getting clarity, moving anything forward. I understand, look, Silver Sprocket seems to have had some financial troubles. They had to lay off their staff and close their physical store. That's tough, but that's not an excuse for no transparency on where things are. I think that, they and I think that it's not always an insidious move so much as they're like, well, I'll be delayed on paying the royalties, but maybe things will turn around and, it was delayed, but I'll keep everything moving and it'll work itself out. Wild. No, Wally, I didn't see that news, but I did see this news about manga. This is very cool, folks. Let me explain why it's cool. So, 7 Seas, they do a lot of manga importing into English. So they announced that they're going to release Ultraman's original manga in English for the first time. It was done by somebody pretty famous. The manga was by the late, great Kazuo Umezo. Often just simplified, people would just call him Umez. Best known for his horror manga. Umez made the comic from the show's premiere in 1966 into 1967. That was published in the pages of Kodansha's weekly Shonen magazine, the same one that currently publishes Rent-A-Girlfriend, my latest episode. So Umez went on to become known as Japan's godfather of horror manga. There's a lot of important people there. Shigeru Mizuki, Hito Hineshi. Of course, everybody knows Junji Ito these days. But, Umez was very important there, especially for books like The Drifting Classroom, as just one example. For the 60th anniversary, Ultraman by Kazuo Umez, the classic manga collection, will be released in hardcover in North America. It is coming out next year, July 2027, $42.99. But that's fun. It was adapting the first few stories that they did on the live action TV show, but they also gave him a lot of flexibility to just do it his own way, pace it his own way, etc. And he made like the aliens way creepier and more disturbing than they looked as sort of like, the rubber costume monsters. He did a great job on them. I forget the name of this one off the top of my head. I used to know that. Too bad EJ Sue isn't here. I know he knows Ultraman pretty well. He'd probably remember the name of these aliens. Hey, 24/7. What was I talking about last week with your comics? You guys are doing you guys have something at San Diego. Like I want to say you're doing like a manga or something, and all of a sudden it just left my head. Sorry. I got to peace out. Hey, thanks for the support. I found a bunch of back issues of the Max for $3 a piece. Hey, congratulations. That's a great find. I love hearing stories like that. And, Sam Keith was awesome. Just a real unique vision for things. That's awesome. Congrats on finding a great value. Thanks for the support too. That's what it is. Big cart chase. Yes. Big cart chase. My Kingdom for an English Yokoyama manga. Yes, Bolton. That's what I was thinking of, Bolton. Anyway, very cool. One more piece of news here. So, Afterlife with Archie. All right, so, yeah, congratulations. Sean Chen, Mark Text, Godtail, and many more will be at our booth 1837. I hope you have fun. I wish I could go to San Diego someday. Disney Plus today announced that they have greenlit a live-action series based on the comic Afterlife with Archie. It's going to come out Halloween 2027. Now, before this, we did know that Disney Plus had given a full script order to the show, so it was probably going to happen. But today was the day they announced that it is definitely going to get filmed and when it's going to get released. So the comic was by Roberto Aguirre Sacasa and Francesco Francavilla. I believe I reviewed it at least partially back in the day, because I know I did an Archie horror episode, and I think I talked about it so many years ago now. That began in October of 2013. The 10th issue came out August 2016, but it never finished. It was planned to go at least 12 issues. Never finished. It's been driving me nuts, to be honest, because I liked it. I liked it a lot. However, writer Aguirre Sacasa is writing this show, and he's also producing it along with Greg Berlanti, all the Arrowverse shows. So apparently this will be him finishing the story finally. Wish that he could have found the time to just do at least a couple more issues and wrap it up. Loved Francesco's art in this. Just fantastic. Really cool horror take on things. But yeah, coming to Disney Plus of all places. From the press release, which basically summarizes the comic. When a supernatural spell from a certain teen witch backfires, Sabrina, unleashing an army of the possessed dead upon Riverdale, Archie and his friends must fight to stay alive, testing the friendships, romances, and loyalties that have always held them together. It's really sad and sets a good tone at the beginning, because Jughead loses his dog, Hot Dog, who he loves, and he goes to Sabrina, and he's like, you got to bring my dog back. And who can't relate to that impulse, right? But her spell goes awry, and it brings back anything dead. It's great. Anyway, Aguirre Sacasa and Berlanti previously did produce, if you didn't know, the live-action Riverdale and Chilling Adventures of Sabrina shows. So this is them doing another live-action Archie show, and for yet another network, because it was CW for Riverdale, Netflix for Chilling Adventures, and now it's going to be Disney Plus for Afterlife with Archie. All of this while there's that Universal live-action movie based on just Archie that's going on. He's done enough. I know some people really like those shows, though, so I don't know. This one is going to at least be very focused. You know what I'm saying? Those others could pull from so many different things and go on for as long as they needed to. But Afterlife with Archie was at least one focused idea, one concept. I like the comic a lot, and so I'm kind of trying to be hopeful. I'm trying to be. I did love the hold on. I did love the Sabrina book, and that issue with Josie and Co. was cool. Is there going to be a Josie and the Pussycats on Peacock? There should be. There should be. Is there an Archie story where he gets drafted into Vietnam? I don't know of anything like that. They are releasing a deluxe hardcover collecting 1 through 10, which is strange, because if they're going to do a deluxe, you'd think they'd wait for the rest of the series. Except it's been 10 years, so I don't know that they're going to do another. Yeah, Tom King is working on the Universal live-action movie. That's the one he's working on. Anyway, that was the news. Whoops, I meant to put myself like that. Hello. How do you do? Here, have another double salute on me, to you. It's my gift to you. I think it's time to talk about some comic books. Some comic books seem to be what's on the menu tonight, boys. So, bear with me, and I'm going to set up another camera so that we can talk more about comics. We're going to look at it through the lens of what came out most recently. Let's do some reviews.
Let's review.
Review it.
The review.
The reviews are in. I repeat, the reviews are in.
Go to reviews.
What? Speaking of bad reviews.
Don't worry about that review.
Let's review all the facts.
All right, gentlemen, let's review.
Before we do, let's review.
Those reviews really came out fast.
Maybe we can review some right now?
I'm not going to review all that again.
Now let's review.
Not my worst review.
Let's review, shall we? to review.
I think I've reviewed about as much as I can.
Bear with me. I'm still trying to set this up, actually. It's acting a little glitchy. Let me try to reset things. Hold on. I'll just play that whole intro all the way through again. Wouldn't that be fun? Are you not working tonight, camera? Oh, okay. Hold on. It turned on. That's step one. Sorry that I'm having technical issues. We'll be talking first about Absolute Green Arrow. I just need to be able to pull up a camera so that you guys can actually see what I see. There we go. There we go. All right. Thank you for your patience with me. Every once in a while, producer Chris lets down host Chris. We'll get there. We'll get there. So I'll focus a little bit tonight on Absolute Green Arrow, Dork, and Battle Beast, and then I'll just have some quick thoughts for some of the other things that I read this week, which is a good amount of stuff, actually. All right, so we're at issue 3 of Absolute Green Arrow. I would say the first 2 issues moved at a slightly better pace for me. This does still intrigue me with the mystery, though. They're doing a lot of level setting, moving characters into position like a chess piece so that then you can get the next burst of action. I'm not going to spoil anything. I always sort of pause before I get too far. But what I'll say about that I noticed about this one was how much I really liked the artwork by Raphael Albuquerque. Yeah, I don't know. I think that he's got really well-defined versions of these characters, and they're very consistent, and they're very expressive. I really love the design of Green Arrow in here. Actually, that's kind of small, isn't it? It's hard to see, but so he's got a skull sort of mask, right? But one thing that's cool is, at first I didn't really pick up on it, but these little points that he's got to his skull mask are evocative of Oliver Queen's Van Dyke beard. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but I like that. Yeah, this is sort of what I mean by just expressive storytelling. That's Roy Harper and Dinah Lance. And it's just good character design, good acting. You know, there's a part of comic books that you need to have good illustration skills, but you also need to have what I would call good cartooning. And the good cartooning is the decisions on storytelling, where to put a camera, what information you want to put in that page, the gesture, the expression, stuff like that. And I was just very impressed with this because it's a little stylized, which it needs, but it also has a lot of nice grounded detail. Like, just look at how precise this bow and arrow look, which obviously is a very important element for a book where the main villain is a serial killer with a bow and arrow. It's also a very dynamic shot. It uses some really nice shapes. You know, we've got several triangles here competing for our attention, and then we've got little circles that offset it. It's really nice. So I was just saying that was the big thing I noticed with this one, was just really, really good artwork, and it got me through an issue that needed to do a good amount of setup for whatever the next move is in this. And yeah, I like the design of Green Arrow a lot. I really like the design of Green Arrow. I think he legit looks creepy, scary, looks like a villain. The design for Dinah, I like. I don't always love it. You know, like the super short hair it's a very butch decision for the character, and it fits how she's written. It really does. But sometimes I wonder if they leaned into a little bit of femininity, and it's not like I'm not arguing it for the case of the male gaze so much as it would be an interesting contrast to just how hard this character is. But that's not a complaint. It's just a random thought more than anything. There is femininity to this character, to be clear, but she's also very tall, very, muscular, and she seems dangerous and she seems capable. If you've read any Green Arrow before, what's fun about it is there's so many characters in this from the past, sidekicks, and you don't know which of these sort of former sidekicks are going to be an important element to this version of the story and which are just meant to be red herrings. What's this? I tagged you in a post on Blue Sky where Francesco talked about the new issue of Afterlife with Archie that are in the works. It's from 9 months ago. Oh, no kidding. Well, that's exciting to hear. Okay, I love her design. She looks and acts like a badass. Yeah, a walking power fantasy. She's very impressive, very capable. And I love that inversion of what we would expect where it's Dinah Lance is the main character in this book. And the complete motivations of some of the characters like Merlin, Malcolm Merlin, I don't know. He could fall on either side to some degree. He seems a little villainous, but he's not the villain. That's definitely Hector Hammond. There seems to be the chance that Oliver Queen could have been a villain, but I don't know. There's a lot of mystery to this. I like it. I like it quite a bit. Pretty good cover too, right? I mean, I think that this gives you a good idea of what to expect from a book. I think it's a little dark. I really would have lightened this up a little bit. I'm nitpicking, though, at that point. But, the idea of having the main character, like, silhouetted like this by money, and then having the money covered in blood money. Well, those are definitely the themes that we're talking about in this book, billionaires, the billionaire class, and how they have blood on their hands to get as rich as they are. When you can see this in person, it really has some lovely hatching that indicate that intricate work that we've got on our money. I don't know what that's called, that style. That maybe it's called etching, right? It would be called etching to make money. It's nice. Yeah, this version of Absolute Green Arrow is legit scary. It is a dark comic, but I just feel like this is so dark you almost can't see some of the detail, and there's some nice detail I'd love to be able to share. Oh, yeah. I think that's intentional, just to be clear, because Mike Grell's Green Arrow run, famous for the Longbow Hunters, right? And this arc is called the Longbow Killer. So it's meant to be evocative of that for sure. Engraving. Yeah, engraving or etching. You know what's been a very fun comic to read every month is Dork. That book exploded in popularity with issue 1. And I was late to the party. I picked up the reprint the next week or 2 weeks after that. And I was like, oh, I sort of get it. It's not just speculation. This is like fun art with like a really well-developed world and character. There's a continuing narrative arc behind the scenes, but there's also a really good focus by Brett Bean on making sure each issue tells a pretty complete story. And with cartoony characters, sometimes you can go so cartoony for comics that it's too simple for me. There's plenty of newspaper strips where I'm like, I don't know how this got picked up. It's not good art, but this is great art. It knows where to leave plenty of open space in the line art and where to just give you good, strong silhouettes, where to show, the exaggeration so that the emotions being displayed and the movements being made really read very clearly and quickly. Like this is a chicken with its head cut off. That's like it's a ghost chicken. The ghost head controls its body, but it's a headless chicken that's always running around. And I don't know if you can see like just how good that gesture is. And this is just a random page that I opened up to, but like that looks great. That looks great. Let me zoom in just a little bit more. If you haven't read this book yet, you really can jump into this thing anytime. It's a very easy book to pick up, even though it's got a story behind it. And in this, we get hints as to Dork's past, because we know that he's the son of a dwarf and an orc. And those are warring enemies in this fictional world, which there's a prophecy that, you know, it shouldn't have happened and he's going to doom the world. Okay, that's all you need to know. So there's lots of different factions that are always out to kill this poor guy, even though he's really well-meaning. He's a very likable guy. He's very likable. He's heroic because he knows he's not always the most powerful or capable, but he tries to do the right thing anyway. Not in a stupid way, just in a way where he's like, I've got to do the right thing. Yeah. The prequel is Delph. I won't go too far, but I will say this does reveal some surprising things about Dork's past. Yeah, it's really, really nice in that regard. Some of you probably already read it because, you know, I do this show pretty far into the week, intentionally. But I mean, into the week from like when comics get released. But it's got some great artwork, great fantasy ideas, you know, all these mystical creatures that are always interesting to see. There's a really cool, what would I call it? Sort of like a skeleton of a horse with wings. I feel dumb that I never discovered Brett Bean any earlier. What are some of the things Brett Bean did before this? Because I love Dork. It's great. Was he just drawing or was he writing too? Oh yeah, exactly. Every panel imparts such clear information, such strong intent of what the character is doing. You know, in some ways it should. Yeah, Bone is... Boy, yeah, there are some similarities. There are some similarities. You're right. Wow, I didn't even think about that, but Bone is one of my favorites. You know, Bone I love. Bone I adore. Bone has really good characterization, really good pacing, really interesting ideas. This leans closer into the type of fantasy of like tabletop gaming, whereas Bone was more of just a world where there could be dragons and sorcerers, but it wasn't like everybody always encountered them. It was more rare. I don't know what the difference there would be with like whether you'd call one high fantasy or low fantasy. I don't really know. There is a difference, but yeah, Dork is really special. Dork is something that is right at the top of my list when it comes out. Right, like with whatever I pick up that week, I know I'm going to want to read Dork right away. Very fun, you know. And while I wanted to talk about Battle Beast on some level, I'll just say also, new comic resetting. Going to talk about Battle Beast. Boy, does this issue move fast. So there's not a whole lot to say other than they'd set all this up so that we've got Battle Beast versus Conquest, an evil Viltrumite. But it's two aliens that are just about unstoppable. And they're constantly surprised at just how tough their opponent is. Let me zoom out just a notch so that I can show this. Look at this. This is Battle Beast. We've rarely seen him like this. He really thought that at the end of the last issue that he'd beaten Conquest by shoving his sword through Conquest's chest. He didn't realize just how strong and how well Conquest can heal. And so you've got Battle Beast actually looking like, oh, surprised. Uh-oh. Folks, it's nothing but wall-to-wall fighting. And when you've set it up properly so that the book can just move at that pace, boy, is that fun. And it lets Ryan Ottley lean into what he likes to do. You know, he loves drawing action. He loves drawing dynamic shots. He loves drawing bloody, beaten characters. It's fun seeing these guys actually be a little clever with their strategy for fighting the other one. There's a little bit of strategy by two people that are way more powerful than they each realized. But the detail is incredible. Ryan has really grown as an artist since he first started working on Invincible. I always thought he had plenty of talent, very expressive, but it's interesting as he's gone on how much confidence he has in when to lay in some detail. And it's purely for giving texture and weight to some of these things. It's not just to muddy things up. You know, when you glance at this, you know, the background here, like the water, has plenty of open negative space. It isn't just like tons of hatching for no reason. And even if you just glance at this, you know, you've got the outline of the character just fine. So it reads really quickly. But he does have a lot of beautiful, beautiful detail when he feels like it's necessary. But look at how he doesn't always have it, like, you know, like just this sword. It isn't like overly rendered. It's got a little bit of guts coming up from this massive dragon, but it wouldn't really make sense to have this super rendered because this is just such a big beast that, you know, like a little blood of it coming out would just be a small portion. It shouldn't be overly rendered. I won't tell you how it goes, but there's plenty more to happen in this. I had my books pulled aside for me because I was working on Wednesday, and they gave me the Mark Bagley variant. So it was interesting to see Mark Bagley draw something other than, you know, Spider-Man. It was a really fun issue. It moves at a breakneck pace. It's been a while since I've read. You know what it reminded me of? I'll tell you this. It reminded me of the Walt Simonson issue of Thor where every page is a splash page. I think I'm remembering that right. There was certainly a John Byrne issue of Hulk for Marvel Fanfare that did that, but I'm pretty sure I'm remembering right that there was a Thor issue where every page was a splash page. And this is panels, but it moves at that kind of a pace. Boom, 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 really fast, but really clear. I always recommend Fantastic Four. I'm going to do quick reviews on this. I love this color block variant by David Nakayama. I do. The fun thing about this is every issue is a scientific mystery. And the scientific mystery in this is that Reed Richards is part of a group of people that are trying to calculate pi out further than it's ever been calculated before, which is a real thing. And because pi goes on, it's technically finite, but the number goes on for so long that the conceit in this is that the code would repeat in all sorts of permutations, right? And that one of those bits of code, just because it goes on for so long and there's a near infinite amount of possibilities, is there would be a code that like absolutely hypnotizes the reader, and if they stop reading it, they just sort of go crazy and start fighting. There's Iron Man. They took his helmet off so that he stopped looking at the code and he just went and started attacking a nearby pole. Okay? So if you look at it, you cannot focus on anything else. That's a fun idea. The idea that just by random happenstance, people came across a bit of the code that warps the mind. And the Fantastic Four, the Thing specifically, has adopted two alien kids, a Skrull and a Kree. Because they're alien, they don't see the code the same way that humans do. So they're the ones that have to solve this problem and figure it out. What a cool little scientific mystery. Yes, pi becomes the anti-life equation. I did not spot the reveal before it happened, and I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it's a very clever bit of science-y solutions for this. No, I love it. I love it. That's such a fun premise. Anyway, I'm just going to say that's a great premise. And I'll talk briefly, because this came out a couple weeks ago. I'd missed my copy, so they just had it for me. But Escape, I know I was just saying Dork is great. Escape is literally like maybe my very favorite book that's coming out right now. It's a World War II analogy, although it's not all one for one or anything like that. But we've got our hero, Milton, is a bear, and he's gone behind enemy lines with these bat creatures, and some of them are Nazis. Now, Milton just blew up their big cannon, okay? That was their doomsday weapon. However, this now puts the story into a totally different path, because this is the resistance, okay? These are bats from, this version of Germany that are not Nazis and are fighting to reclaim their home. And they're arguing because one of them helped Milton, and Milton has blown this weapon up. But the guy that's mad here is like, you've doomed us all. Because now the Allied forces are going to bomb our country. Whether we're good or evil, they're going to bomb our country. We don't have, it was bad that, there was that huge cannon. But that was what was protecting us from the Allied forces. And now the Allied forces are going to come and bomb us. And it just really brings up these issues where you're like, God damn, war is just awful and so unfair. War is just not fair. And what's Milton going to do? Is he was the one that was on this mission, and he's gotten totally wrecked, and he's just worked so hard to accomplish this, to keep his loved ones at home safe. But is he going to be okay with the idea that now that there's these equally good people that are just in a bad position of, they live in this country, but they didn't elect these fascists that took over it. But is he going to be okay with his army wiping them all out, good and evil people? I like to think that Milton is going to try to find a way to save people. But I don't think he's going to be able to save everyone. It's so well drawn. It moves at a good pace despite having these big serious issues. But those big serious issues are what gives this thing way more gravitas than plenty of other comics that I've read. It is a war comic, but some of the best war comics that have been published, a lot of them by EC, just talk about how bad war is and how war is misery. They don't try to glamorize it too much. Yeah, sometimes you can do kind of fun, pulpy, punchy stuff like, Nick Fury and his guys are going to, beat up on the bad guys. And it's cool because these are terrible people and we're doing the right thing. But this asks a bigger issue of what kind of choices do you make in wartime to save the most people? It's incredible. It's just incredible. It's great. It's just great. It asks such deep questions without giving any clear answers. And, what it can do, because it's fiction, is you're not going to have that just a debate or an argument solve the problem. People are going to get into a fight, but it's going to get interrupted because there's a war going on. So it's crazy. It's really good though. And I also love G.I. Joe. This one moves the story forward with a couple bad guys, I'll say. Great artwork by Andrea Milton. Made Crystal Ball an actual cool villain. Sets things up so that Mercer, a top-tier Cobra guy, has been captured, and in the toy line and the cartoon, Mercer becomes a G.I. Joe. He's the only former Cobra to become a G.I. Joe. We'll see if that's something that they do in the comic or not. But I also wonder about this new character they've created, Risk, and he's got a lot of emotional problems, and I wonder if someday he could go the opposite way of Mercer. I don't know, but it's really fun. So let me talk about this. My pal Jim sent me this, which was super kind, because I would have bought it at like New York Comic Con. I bought plenty of his books. But he sent this to me, which was a treat. This is volume 3 of his sketchbook series. Really gorgeous stuff. Really, really gorgeous. And fun, just fun. Jim has evolved his art, especially in the last maybe 2 years or so, to still have this street art scratchy quality, but he also does some really interesting hatching stuff for shadows that adds both an energy and a depth to it. I really like it. I would say that some of his earliest work had way more open line art. And now, even though it's loose, he's got shadows that really give these characters some weight. And I really enjoy it. And he just has lots of little fun details. You'll be like looking at this, and of course your eye gets drawn because of the composition to the girl at the center. But then you start seeing funny things like, this weird alien mouth and this sort of happy cloud with lightning. It's just incredible. There were 2 pieces in this. I can't show you the whole thing, or otherwise you might not want to buy it. But there were 2 pieces that just, for whatever reason, really hit for me. This one with some cool aliens and monsters. We're sort of doing a riff on things like Forbidden Planet. I like that. And then there's one, let me find it. I just thought it had really good depth and composition for a cool angle. Boy, there's so many good things in this, though. Oh, it's this one. I really love this low angle shot of a lady climbing steps to some sort of temple. It's ominous. It's cool. I love that one. I think it's really, really nice. These pages are way bigger than letter size. These pages, the interior art might some sort of be like that, but so like here's a regular standard comic book. Good question. Let me zoom out a little. You can actually see this. I'll get this off. So there's this, and there's like a regular comic. So I don't think it's even, it's wider than a normal comic. Even if we scaled up, we'd get to like about this. So it's I don't know what paper size this is called. And I don't think, there's Jim. All the trash movies have inspired this. I saw a few things that I was like, Jim must have drawn that when we were watching a certain horror movie. There's just no way he couldn't have. It's magazine size. Thank you very much for sharing, Jim. I didn't realize you were still there, buddy. We have recorded a new trash movie bonanza. Jamie's still editing it. We don't feel the need to always rush it, but there is one coming. I'm excited to share that with you. It's a great presentation. It's really nice paper. There's a couple, little ads for stuff that I work on too, like Trash Movie Bonanza. Well, that's actually just a little sketch for me. So, but in here, Jim has plugs for some of the things that he works on. He's got his show Ink Pulp. He's got his gear and T-shirts that you can buy on his website. And he does mention Trash Movie Bonanza, which I thank you, Jim. Very, very kind of you to do that. Very, very kind. And so there is a link in the description below to get one of these. And then maybe, if you see him at a convention, you could get it signed. He's going to be at both San Diego and I think New York. I've never heard of that one. Vampire Trailer Park. Too many movies to mention. We've watched a lot. We've watched a lot at this point. It's not always like a bi-weekly or even monthly thing, but we've been doing it for a little while, and it just adds up. We've looked at a lot of really cool movies, and occasionally we've even had some really cool guests. Who have we had at this point? We've had Rob Schraub, comics wise, Scud the Disposable Assassin. TV wise, Sarah Silverman program, Community, Rick and Morty. We've had Daniel Warren Johnson on the show. We've had Jorge Corona and Morgan Beam on the show. Have we had anybody else? I don't know. Everyone, we should have more guys on. Oh, look at that. Yeah, of course I'll plug you, buddy. Booth 4071 at San Diego Comic-Con. So maybe if you're there, get a copy of this. Strong recommend. Am I biased? Yeah, but I'll say that I'm biased, you know. Here's something I'll tell you. Before I got to know Jim, I was aware of Jim's art, but hadn't really sought it out and wasn't. I've seen so many different types of indie art, but I hadn't really looked into something that I'll say leans more into some street art aesthetics. I hope that that's a fair description. And then I started to get to know Jim, and I started reading his stuff, and it really opened my eyes to looking at comics in a slightly different way. And I think that that's it's meant to be one of the biggest compliments I can possibly give someone, because I've looked at a lot of different types of art and a lot of different types of comics. And when I can look at one and then take a second look and reassess, and it opens my eyes to new possibilities of what comic books can be and what you can do with them, it's all of a sudden I just start seeing something differently, and it's a type of euphoria because I'm interpreting storytelling in a new way. And there's not too many experiences I get like that anymore. You know what I'm saying? I've seen Jack Kirby. I've seen Osamu Tezuka. I've seen Jim Lee. You know, and there's so many variations and derivatives and people influenced by things that you're like, this is great art. But it isn't necessarily so radically different that it changes how I look at it. And every once in a while, you reassess something, and I go, wow, wait a minute. I get it now. I'll say that was my case when I was growing up. I didn't care for Jack Kirby, by the way. I didn't care for it. But I grew to all of a sudden go like, oh, my God, I get it. I get it now. It's really, really fun. We haven't done Dr. Giggles, which is based on a comic. That's a Dark Horse movie. We'll do more comics as time goes on. Anyway, so that was fun. The other day, I swung by a Japanese grocery chain that we have in this area called Wajimaya, and they've got a partnership with Bandai so that they actually have the Gachapon machines with basically the current stuff that's in Japan. Not all of it, but a big chunk of it gets brought over here. Not the coolest stuff usually, but some cool stuff. This one looked cool to me. Gachapon can be capsules, but there are other things. You can get flat Gachapon. And this one was, you'd get a mini poster of one of these classic DC covers. And I was like, yeah, I like that. I'm going to get one. And I haven't looked at what I got yet. So we're going to open this together and take a look at what kind of poster I got. Okay. It's cool. Superman returns to Action Comics. Action Comics 643. Is this John Byrne drawing that? I legit don't remember who drew the cover to 643 and can't easily tell by a glance. I would have loved to have potentially gotten, like, say, Bruce Timm or Carmine Infantino, or I don't know. There's like I love them all though. But this is fun. That's fun. Yeah, just a little poster. These are things you can get. Gotcha. It's Perez. Is it Perez? It looks like it could be Perez. Some people are saying Byrne. That was my first guess. But it looks like it could be Perez. Because of the smile. That looks like Perez. I'm going to look it up. I can't tell. Action Comics 643. Let's see who it is for sure. 643. Cover by George Perez. It's George Perez, folks. Yeah. There's a similarity to some of the musculature, but the more I looked at it, Perez definitely had certain ways he would draw details on faces. He always tried to give people different faces. I did appreciate that since he worked on a lot of team books. Sometimes I didn't always agree with those choices. I never understood why he decided to give Thor sort of like a little nub of a nose. I was like, that doesn't seem Nordic to me. Not that I think it needs to have like a Roman nose, but like he just like drew Thor with what you might call a button nose. But I love Perez, and actually now I'm starting to like it more, knowing that it is Perez. That's a really cool recreation of a classic Action Comics cover, originally by Joe Shuster, right? So anyway, that's fun. Oh, and I don't know, did I have this? You know, I did. I have this for later. Let me just set this aside for a moment, and we'll start the drawing portion, where I'm just going to noodle around on some textures and talk about other stuff. I'm going to start with the fact that today we got the official trailer for Avengers Doomsday. And I don't know about you folks, but I found it very fun. I wouldn't say that I absolutely loved it and felt lots of big emotions, but I felt a sense of relief as I looked at it, because I was like, you know what? None of this looks bad, and they're making some really good choices here. I won't spoil really anything, but I think it's fair to say one of the cooler elements here is that Robert Downey Jr., there's really not a hint of him, or at least of Tony Stark, in it. He's giving Dr. Doom an accent, you know, a fictional Eastern European accent, which would be Latvian. I like that. It sounded like its own character. And I was like, okay, respect. That's a really cool move. I liked seeing that, you know, they're leaning into some of the newer characters like Shang-Chi and Yelena Belova. I was like, yeah, you can't lean forever on Thor and Captain America and Iron Man, because those actors keep getting older. You know, it's not like comics. The actors are getting older, and you either need to recast or reboot or find a way to move on in an organic way. Pass on the mantle and focus on somebody that's a little younger. You have to. If for a movie, not for a comic, but for a movie, you do. So yeah, it seemed like some good ideas. There's a lot of characters in it, and that, like, on one level, it makes me a little nervous, and on another level, I'm like, you know what? While there's a lot of characters, there's certainly not every character. And at this point, there's just, you know, you add all the different movies and TV shows and stuff, and it could have been too much. But to Marvel's credit, they at least haven't overdone it. So that's good too. I'm optimistic. I'm more optimistic than before I saw it. I wonder that too. I think that there's a strong chance that it's... I think there's a strong chance that Robert Downey Jr. playing this character, he's just playing another character. He might not take the mask off. It might not have any connection at all with Tony Stark / Iron Man. All of us thought, well, there has to be a connection, getting the same actor. There's a chance that maybe not. Maybe they just decided to bring this guy back as a different character. I don't know. There's definitely some that were announced that we didn't see. You know, Kelsey Grammer as Beast, right? But that's okay. And I'm sure you're right. They're going to keep a couple surprises, but Marvel's never been fantastic about keeping everything a surprise for these movies. For instance, imagine how much we could all enjoy Thor Ragnarok if you didn't know that Hulk was in it. Spoiler for a movie that came out like 10 years ago, right? That was the original actress. That was Rebecca Romaine Stamos as that's not her name anymore, is it? It's just Rebecca Romaine. I just showed my age there. She hasn't been with John Stamos in a very long time. That was Rebecca Romaine as Mystique. Slightly changed her look to be a little more like the comics. That was another thing I liked. I liked that the X-Men were wearing costumes that we recognized. I like that. There's there's a lot of characters in it. It's a big idea, but it might be fun. I hope it is. And here's the thing. I can be way more critical about comics than I can for comic book movies. Now, I love movies, but and I can watch trash cinema, but if I'm reviewing them, I can be critical of them. But here's the thing. I also grew up in an age where we were starved for comic book stuff. We got, maybe a Hulk TV movie, and we were like, well, it's as good as we're going to get for the next 6 years. So it's like I was starved for that stuff. And it's hard to complain when the faucet's been turned all the way on and some of it is average, because I love it. And I'm not going to be the most critical person of comic book movies. I can be, but I'm not always going to be. It's just not where I did see Disclosure Day, and that was a movie I'd call okay. And if it was by somebody other than Spielberg, I'd even say pretty good. But as a Spielberg movie, I was a little disappointed. I expected a little bit more out of it. Nothing that's outright bad about it, but it's also not that innovative or surprising. That's okay. Yeah, Trial of the Incredible Hulk with Daredevil in this weird sort of black suit that, to their credit, Frank Miller and John Romita Jr. found a way to introduce in Man Without Fear and make look cool. But back then it looked weird. Yeah, I just went through so long in my life where there wasn't really any superhero comic book adaptation stuff usually. It was, there were cartoons and sometimes they were only okay. Super Friends was not a very good cartoon a lot of the time. It was pretty bad, but that's what we had. We had reruns of stuff like that. Anyway, so there are still superhero movies where I was like, well, that was a disappointment. The second Wonder Woman movie, I go, that was a total disappointment. What a waste of all the talent that was in that movie. And okay, I'm not too into that, but there's plenty of movies that are probably only okay that I still enjoy quite a bit. I'll say that, I defend this one a fair amount. The Marvels, the Captain Marvel sequel. I bet a lot of people think that's only okay to bad, but I just love it. It gave me what I want out of a superhero movie. I don't know. When the first Burton Batman movie came out, we were desperate for it not to be a comedy. I know, when you look back, and there's some campy elements in that thing, but at the time, that felt so serious compared to what we'd had. That felt so serious, the 89 Batman. And you look back, and there's plenty of campiness to it. Happy birthday. But anyway, hopefully it's good, right? Hopefully it's good. We'll see. Of course we will. We've got no choice but to wait and see if it's any good. But it would be nice if it's good. It was a good trailer. maybe not exceptional, but it was a very good trailer. When they play a serious version of the Avengers theme at the end, and I think that was by Alan Silvestri, if I'm remembering right, my body got goosebumps, so I was like, okay, I'm feeling something for this. So yeah, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. What else? What else this week? I'm behind on X-Men 97, so I can't speak to that. If you're looking at me and you can tell that I've got some color, I don't know if you can tell today, but I do have some color. Here's how you can tell, right? I'm going to raise my eyebrows, and you're going to see my skin get really white and then it's going to go back to red. Can you see that? That's color. That's color. I was out in the sun yesterday. Chrissy and I went to Washington's Ren Fair, and we had a great day. We had so much fun. We did archery. We rode a ride called the Maypole. We got some fun food. Saw costumes and stuff. It was so nice. Hey, thank you, Steve. Most of the time, depression and anxiety lie to you. Hold on, life is still beautiful, and brighter days may be closer than they seem. Keep going. Very positive. Very positive. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Who was the colorist? I don't understand. Sorry, I missed something, I think, Beowulf. Not 100% sure what that referred to. Anyway, yeah. We had a great day. The Maypole ride that I spoke about, it's like there's this humongous mast, okay, with colored bands all the way around attached to seats, wooden seats all the way around in a ring. And they wind it. They manually, they crank it, and you go up, and then gravity takes control and centrifugal force goes, and oh my God, I had no idea it would be that intense. That was a very intense ride. You feel like you're going so fast, and it's so dizzying. And then you get to the bottom, and then you, of course, it starts winding up the other way. And after, we did that a few times, our heads are all spinning, and then they're like, round 2. And I'm like, round 2? Oh my God. It was intense, but it was very fun in its own way. We were both loved it, probably couldn't do it again. But we had fun doing it at least once, which was nice. Got some good food. I got a pickle. Love getting a nice raw pickle. That was fun. Chrissy got a nice gyro. So good. Such a good day. What else have I done this week? Oh, I know. Let me pause drawing, and I'll bring back something I was about to talk about. So, I did get Frank Miller's new book, and I'll tell you what pushed me over the edge to get it was, I want to say it's, what is it, $25 for the book or something like that? No, it's 30. Okay, never mind. It's 35 for no extra money at all. You could order a version that was signed by Frank. So yeah, that is an actual signature. If you order it through Barnes & Noble, they got a ton of them signed by him. And I was like, okay, I'll get a signed version of it. Good point. So I was just still talking about the Ren Fair. Chrissy was great at the archery, folks. She hit her target really close to the center every single time. I completely missed the target on my first shot. And then I kept sort of aiming too high. I guess I thought the arrow would drop, but it actually, if anything, kind of goes up a little because of the shorter distance. Chrissy was very good at it. What is this book? It is two things. It is a biography, and it is also kind of a book teaching you lessons about writing. So yeah, my life, writing, drawing, and the art of storytelling. And it reminded me that Frank can be a very engaging writer. He really knows how to describe a scene so that it's engaging and interesting, and there's an element of chaos or danger or something like that. And then he never lingers too long, so the book moves at a good pace. And there's some good lessons in here about how to structure storytelling and what inspired him. It's not that long of a book. It's got like about 200 pages, I want to say. Yeah, just under 200 pages. And some of the pages have art on them, like from different points in his career, depending on what he's talking about. So I would guess that it's right around, 180 pages or something, which is honestly not a huge read. So I'm kind of flying through it, and I'm getting some stuff out of it that it's nice. It's really nice. He talks a little bit about his family and his upbringing. He talks about being new to New York. He talks about the craziness of Hollywood. He talks about quite a bit. Not everything, but he talks about quite a bit that he hasn't really gone into detail with before, his family and stuff. And there's some really good lessons for writing. I don't love everything Frank's ever written, but there is a lot that I do. Anything in the 80s, very good. Legit. Just everything that he did through the 80s, good. Almost everything he did in the 90s, very good. Certainly took some chances with stuff like 300 or Sin City. He was trying different things. I haven't read the whole book, so I don't know if he's going to talk about his relationships with people like Lynn Varley. I don't know yet. I haven't read the whole thing. He can teach a lot. He definitely can teach you solid ideas for structure and character motivation and setting a scene. No, there's a lot that he can teach you. Even if you don't absolutely love all of his writing, there's still a lot that he can teach you that I'm getting out of this. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's good advice for writing. That's good advice. And this is from somebody that I have, to toot my own horn, I have taught writing classes before for the Writing Center in Bethesda, Maryland, for a few years. I did. And so I've studied writing structure a lot. And there's some good advice in this book. There really is. Martha Washington, really, really good. Ronan, very fun. You know what? At the beginning, he mentions a bunch of the stuff that he's done, right? Works by Frank Miller. We've got 300, Give Me Liberty, Big Guy and Rusty the Boy Robot, Hard Boiled, Batman Year One, Ronin, Elektra Assassin, Daredevil Born Again, right? Lots of that stuff. It's not everything. You don't see Holy Terror listed in here. So there's some stuff that he's not as proud of as other things. I've got that book as well. It is good. It is good. I have seen some of the animated series. It was interesting. It forced it to go in some different directions, but it was creative. It was creative. What else? Oh, so there's a new episode. I don't know if anyone could tell from it or not, but I did get new audio equipment again. I'm constantly trying to improve that stuff, folks, because I know a lot of people say, one of the most important things you can do on YouTube is have good audio. So I am constantly trying to improve Comic Tropes, and I did get some new audio equipment that I think sounds better, but I don't know. It's kind of it's hopefully an invisible thing where people are just like, yeah, it's good, not bad. But people complain when it's bad, but they don't notice when it's good, and that's fine. Oh, thank you, Steve. Really appreciate that. Thank you. The rebuild downstairs is slow. I'll say that. We got the insulation done, and the next step is to find a day where the guys that do all the drywall come out. After the drywall, they do the painting. Then they're going to do the floor. The floor will be the big thing. And then we move everything back in. I hope it was good. I hope that the last comic Tropes was good. Yeah, I didn't think everybody would, like, I got a lot of weird comments saying, like, I never expected Chris to talk about this. And I'm like, I talked about stuff I either don't like or manga before, so I don't know why people would think that I would not talk about it. But anyway, yeah, I talked about a manga that I don't really like, and why. It's been talked about before, but I still felt like I wanted to talk about my perspective on it all. And I had fun doing it. I've got a lot of manga episodes I want to do. Manga's a little tricky because it does require a lot of research for gathering images. It's very time consuming. That's okay, but it is. Whoa, dude, you're keeping me fed. One more super chat, I swear. Great episode on Rent a Girlfriend. That's so nice of you. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Dactyl Hill Squad about if escaped slaves fought in the Civil War on dinosaurs. Never heard about it. Thanks. Let's see. Thanks, Beowulf, for commenting. The episode was great, and that manga has always been baffling to me. Maybe because I'm not straight, but boy, it strikes me as weird. No, it is weird. I think that the broadest picture of it could be interesting. Because the premise for Rent a Girlfriend is, you can rent friends and girlfriends. They're not truly doing that, but they're role playing for like a limited amount of time, so that you can go out in public and sort of get an experience. It's a thing you can do in Japan. Not necessarily as common as people think, but you can do it. I think when you pause and look at that as a bigger picture, this guy renting a girlfriend and basically falling in love with her, it could work as a really interesting metaphor for sex work. One of the oldest professions out there. And I know that's really serious, but I think you're keeping it in a somewhat safe bubble by working within the confines of a real thing where you can rent a friend or a girlfriend. But I don't think it addresses those real world concerns and uses that metaphor properly. And I know that the goal is to be a light, romantic comedy. But I feel, and I sort of talk about this in the episode, but I'm just talking like extra thoughts off the top of my dome. It doesn't ever really feel romantic to me because of the pacing. There's no hint that the main guy, Kazuya, grows in a meaningful way. He's very weak and unlikable, in my opinion. I don't like him. Anyway. See, too many people only notice stuff to complain about, no matter how slight of an issue it might be. The most noticeable thing about audio is when someone records an edition after it was recorded. I know, and sometimes I feel like I just absolutely have to, and it breaks my heart, but it's such a last-minute thing. I don't always have time to do better. For someone who is thinking about becoming a full-time artist, do you have any advice? Yeah. Make sure that you can make a living at it, or that you can balance your time by having a job that allows you to draw a lot. Be willing to draw stuff that isn't your favorite, be willing to draw all sorts of stuff from real life. Cars, people, like real people around, like just lots and lots of drawing from real life. And that's the only stuff that's going to and draw all the time, constantly, just constantly draw. Never give yourself a break. Just be willing to draw all the time, because it's the only way you're going to get past your mistakes is by just drawing them and then going, oh, I know how I could do that better now that I've drawn it. You can't just look at it and know how to do it perfect. You're going to have to draw that mistake. And then, just get yourself in that habit too of being like, hey, if this was my full-time job and I'm getting paid for it, I'm going to have to draw all the time anyway. So just be willing to draw all the time. Oh, thank you for the super chat, and thank you for the kind words. Thank you. I really appreciate that a lot. That means so much to me. Thank you. I'm glad it resonated with some people. That's so nice. Anyway, it was just sort of a fun, different one for me. And I said at the end during the closing credits how I've got several much more important, manga artists that I want to talk about, but the trickier thing there is I was talking mostly about the manga creator. And I already had I knew where to get the images of his posts and his tweets and the things that he's done. And so it wasn't too hard to get the images together that I needed. But for doing one about Hirohiko Araki and his evolution in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and all the different references to high fashion and hard rock that he's included, that's going to require gathering so many images. It's going to be very, very time consuming and tough. And it's a little scary. And then I want to talk about people like Go Nagai and Shigeru Mizuki, who've influenced manga in huge ways. But there's so much work that they've done. It's going to just take forever to gather those images. So, no, I haven't talked about that yet, Mike. It's just going to take a really long time. But that brings me up to another thing. I recently hit the 10-year anniversary and decided to make a small change. I was like, as much as I adore my animated opening, I think that YouTube has moved on from the era of having sort of an opening intro for a lot of shows. Not every show. Some shows do still have opening intros, especially longer ones and live shows. They will have one. But if you're getting into an episode, it's like you got to just sort of get to the point right away because people click off really fast. So as much as I adored having that opening animation, the last couple episodes, I basically dropped it and got straight to the topic. And I'm going to take some time to see analytics-wise how that does. But then that made me think about another thing. And I go, I've always had these long extended credits where I just sort of talk extemporaneously to the audience about what's going on. And I have credits for some of my patrons. But people are definitely clicking off at that point too. And I go, boy, if I want people to watch more than one of my episodes, and you guys are some of my most engaged audience people, the people that are watching a live show right now. So you may watch a bunch of my episodes, but a lot of people maybe watch one and maybe they even hit like on it, but they just watch that one. But if you watch 2 to 3 episodes of a show in short succession, you fall into the algorithm. YouTube starts recommending more of those episodes. And I go, well, at the end of my episode, I've got a few seconds where it blinks up other episodes that it suggests from me based on things that the person is interested in. But I've got sometimes about almost a minute and a half to 2 minutes where I'm showing closing credits and stuff. And I go, that's old fashioned too. I think I need to go straight from the episode to showing suggested other episodes to keep people not just engaged, but honestly feeding what the algorithm wants these days so that they're more likely to watch other episodes. And I think I've been hurting myself by not doing those two things. Which is okay on some level. I've never been a guy that's I need 1 million subscribers and I need to be rich. But I'm realizing I could do better for myself, I think. So I think I'm going to try doing some episodes without the intro or the outro, just to be clear. And I think it's going to help the channel grow and get new viewers. And you need to have new viewers because that's the lifeblood of keeping a show going and doing different things. I could be wrong, but I really think that it would help. And just to be clear, I'm in a good place. You know, the show has never gone down subscriber wise. Every single day it goes up. Every single day. I've never had a day where it went down or even stayed even. I've never had that. Knock on wood. I'm very lucky for that. Sometimes it's only trickling up. Sometimes it goes up in little chunks, but it's always continued on up. But the individual episodes don't always get the traction that I think that they could get. You know, I'm like, no, I think more people could be interested in this episode. How do I get that out to more people? So anyway, just telling you what I'm thinking of. That I'm probably going to produce several comic tropes episodes without really an intro or an outro, just the topic. And I'm going to have as much fun as possible within there and hopefully try to loosen up and do some more jokes and stuff. But I think that it would help. I think it would help. It broke my heart a tiny bit that nobody watched my Shark comic episode. I had a blast putting that together. It was very personal to me. It was very fun to do the research and show you some rare comics and a rare manga, but it just wasn't found and it just wasn't watched. And that's okay. But I would like to do better. I'd like to do better. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you. And I do test thumbnails, just to be clear. If you've ever watched an episode and then like you see it recommended again and you're like, wait, that thumbnail or that title looks different. It's because YouTube for a long time now has let us as creators put up 3 different options to test, I was going to say A-B, but technically it's an ABC test to see what does best. Let's see. Wouldn't it be fun if YouTube could do a Netflix and have a skip intro button? They do have a skip button for ads, if you've seen that. Not for just ads. I mean, like embedded promotional ads. So like if I agreed to one of these ads for like a desk or something like that, you know, a gaming chair, I get offered that stuff all the time. And I'm like, my audience doesn't need to be sold that stuff probably. Not that it's bad. It just doesn't feel like it's a good fit. So anyway, if I do that though, and you've seen this, you can just skip that stuff. These days, if somebody starts saying like, this episode is brought to you by GamerSub, click, skips you forward past it. But yeah, it would be cool if they automatically had that option so that you could put in an intro and you could just hit a button if you wanted to skip it, or you could watch it. Because I love my animated intro. I think Harry Partridge did an incredible job on it, and it's fun. But yeah, sell us that stuff. Well, you know, it's not just that I feel like it's time consuming and annoying and everything. It's also that when you take a sponsorship, you have to get all these approvals. And I'm doing a weekly show, and I only have about like 3 days to make that show each week, right? That gives me very little time to send it to somebody for an approval, wait a day for it to come back. That, like, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. So I just don't bother for the most part. Unless I'm going to be able to deal with like a comic company or a comic book artist or a publisher, that kind of stuff where they can do faster approvals and they kind of know and trust me more. That stuff I'll potentially do. But yeah. Yeah. What do you think of my new song? That's my new comic trope song. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I'll just start charging Jim. Oh, my God. Let's see. I wish Nebula had a comics channel on their service. They don't? That's interesting. I feel interesting and nuanced videos could flourish there. I've never really explored Nebula. I'm aware of it, but I've never really explored it. That's interesting. Oh, I know what else I haven't talked about yet. Sorry. I won't spoil anything, but I did see the Odyssey. I saw it in IMAX, but let me be clear. I saw it in movie theater IMAX, not 70 millimeter. There is a 70 millimeter theater up in Seattle. I just haven't had the time to sort of like go and drive up there. So I saw it in my local theater on regular IMAX, which, if you don't know, if you have a local theater and it says IMAX, that's, yes, it's branded IMAX. That isn't truly IMAX. It's weird. Whatever. 70 millimeter is bigger than even the IMAX screen, which is already bigger than a normal movie screen. 70 millimeter like adds to the top and the bottom. And this is the first time a movie, other than say like a documentary or something, has been filmed completely in IMAX. So it's a much bigger aspect ratio than we typically get to see, which I think is very appropriate for such an epic movie. And look, long story short, great movie, really great movie. The only Christopher Nolan movie I don't like, though, just so you know where I stand, is Tenet. Otherwise, I really like Christopher Nolan. He speaks to me. I've been watching him since, what was the first one I saw of his? It was before Memento. What was that one that he did with Al Pacino and Robin Williams? That was before Memento, right? And then he did one just before that. Anyway, so first of all, I liked it a lot. I'll give it on my scale of, you can get up to 3 thumbs, not thumbs up, just you can get up to 3 thumbs. I give this 2 2/3 out of 3 thumbs. There's a couple moments that maybe are a little slower than it needs to be, but I like it. And that's sort of, to a degree, Nolan's style. He's got a little bit of a Shaggy Dog delivery sometimes to his movies. They can be paced a little slower than the next auteur director. But I liked it. I read that book in school, like many of you did. I don't remember all of it super well. I could tell that they made a few adjustments with character intention with Odysseus, but I won't go too far into the specifics there, because if you haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil it by talking about, what's different and unique about this one. But it gets into a character that has a little bit more of a modern mindset on dealing with regret and being held back by the responsibilities that he has, and getting in his own head about that. And feeling bad about some of the stuff he did in wartime. Top 3 salads of all time: house, steak, fruit. House salad, steak salad, fruit salad. Oh, Insomnia. Yeah. It was after Memento? Okay, well, there was something I saw of his before Memento, and I can't remember. Oh, Following. That was what I saw. There's also some interesting structural things, and that I won't go into too much, but it's interesting because I definitely remember, in whether you want to call it a book or a poem, I'll just say that the book starts with a bunch of chapters about one character before talking about Odysseus's story, his Odyssey, his journey home. And this found a way to instead go back and forth. And I thought that actually helped with the pacing and kept things engaging quite a bit. So I liked that. I loved the scene with Cersei, but I won't say any specifics about it because, again, I'm not out to spoil it. and I won't tell you who's playing her or when it happens in the movie, etc. I won't tell you anything. I'll just say that, if you've read the book, Cersei is a part of it. That was probably my favorite part. What an interesting area. Anyway, it was great. And I wouldn't have thought Matt Damon would be the guy to play this character, but I thought he did a great job. I liked him quite a bit. There's an actress in it that I like quite a bit. Actually, I'll say Anne Hathaway also does an exceptional job as Penelope. Really added some weight to that character and kept her interesting. Liked her performance, her choices a lot. Would have been a very easy character to be boring or something, but no, she keeps it very interesting. What's funny is all these super right-wing critics that just live on outrage content and clickbait stuff, we're all saying that this was a too woke of a version. And the thing is, it's not based on history. It's a fictional story that was written close to 3,000 years ago. But it's fictional. And they were mad that Elliot Page has a role and Lupita Nyong'o has a role. You don't see them getting mad necessarily at like Matt Damon having a role. I'm like, he's not Greek, whatever. So it's like, it's got a bunch of different types of actors from all over. It's got Asian guys, it's got black guys, it's got white guys. It doesn't really fucking matter for this story. It just doesn't, because it's already fictional and has, monsters and stuff in it and sorcery. Or does it? There's always the chance that all the mystical stuff is maybe happening in Odysseus's head. Just to be clear, there's always that chance. Not that this movie leans into that, but that's an element that like you could always argue if you have read the book or the poem, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. It was great. It was just so good. It moves at a good pace. It keeps things fresh. It's got all sorts of interesting locations. They filmed all over the world in really interesting places. So visually, it looks great. There's monsters and there's the undead and there's giants and there's the Cyclops. It's so cool. It's so cool. But just to be clear, when I watched it, there was nothing about having like Elliot Page or something that took me out of it. I'm like, yeah, he's playing Sinan. He totally can fit that role. He wasn't like some big hulking beast of a warrior or anything. It was a good role for Elliot. Anyway. Very good movie. Strongly recommended. If you can see it in IMAX, do that. If you can see it in 70 millimeter, that is probably the way to see it. But very, very good movie. Look, it's almost 3 hours long. I'll tell you this. I didn't notice it. That says something, because there are plenty of movies that are only like an hour and a half long, and I definitely notice it. But yeah, this movie flew by for me. I had a great time. I'm so glad I carved out some time to see it. Really, really good. Oh, and I guess I was saying like that there's all these grifters mad about that stuff, right? And that it didn't really bother me. Folks, the movie is smashing box office records. It had a tremendous opening weekend, like over 250 million for the weekend. It's humongous. It's a huge hit. So it shows that most people are fine with all of it. More than fine. They want to see it. It's a huge hit. It's an R-rated movie. It's, a period piece. There's plenty of reasons why it shouldn't be a big hit, but it's a huge hit. It's a huge hit. And I think it does show that, fortunately, people do still like going to the movies. My theater was packed, and it was a good experience because of that. People gasping or going like, you could feel energy in the crowd, like reacting to scenes. You're like, oh, cool, I like that. I'm feeding off that energy. So it was a great experience, but it's interesting. You look at these movies and it's so hard to predict what's going to be a hit and what isn't. Because if we jump back even 5-6 years ago, right? Supergirl, Moana, those would be guaranteed hits because superhero movie, Disney movie. guaranteed hits. Neither performed very well. But you still make a quality movie like The Odyssey or Obsession, just like with an idea and a take on things that feels fresh and not derivative, people are still going to come out and see it, which is nice. I like that we're seeing that. Oh, and I agree. I liked Supergirl plenty too. But it also, like, I can't say that it's going to be a huge success. Whereas several years ago, it definitely would have been. It just would have been. We got to a point where people were going out to movies all the time, and the pandemic absolutely halted that. And that was when people all of a sudden, they'd already been using streaming, but during the pandemic, that was like our only entertainment outlet. Boom, people are into streaming. People stopped wanting to go out to the theater unless they had a really good reason to go out to the theater. Before that, it was still part of the fabric of entertainment, right? Just like people will still go out to see baseball or stand-up comedy. People will go out and see live stuff, and they'll still go out to movies, but they need a reason. It can't just be average anymore. And to be successful, you go, okay, this movie might get this much of a reaction now. We can't spend more than like XYZ. Like if they made the Supergirl movie for, I don't know, I'll say 60 to 70 million, it would be a hit. It would. Movies are too expensive. Exactly right. Yeah, wait, is Kiyoshi the one that made Kiyoshi Kurosawa? He makes affordable movies, right? What did he make most recently? Sorry, I was looking at the most recent one he did. I guess I haven't seen The Samurai and The Prisoner, but yeah, good director. I've seen some of his stuff. Good point. Oh, was it? Yeah. See, Clayface, if it's made for 40 million, no problem. That will make money no matter what. It will. And people react to success in America anyway. If we see a movie doing well, we start to get FOMO. We're like, oh, okay, I wasn't going to see Clayface, but it's already made 70 million. Oh, that means it's like, making money. Okay, and now I'm curious. People like that. I want to. I haven't seen it yet. Is it on streaming yet? Yeah, some of them might be the marketing. Those are somewhat niche movies. They really still are. So it's hard to predict. I'm certainly not the one with all the answers. It's hard to predict what's going to do well with movies these days. But I think that managing the budget and having something that you can't get anywhere else, and if you're going to make it big, it should be big enough that it feels like if you watched it on streaming, you wouldn't really be getting the full experience. So you want to see it on the big screen. I think that's all the topics that I had for tonight. I've had a really good time chatting with everybody tonight. This was a really fun evening. Yeah, I've been going 3 hours, so I think it's time to wrap it up because I need not just food, but I need water. I can tell my lips are a little chapped, and I think some of that is I must have gotten a little dehydrated yesterday. So I really need to go get some water. Hope you're having fun reading the comics that you're reading. There's a lot coming out this coming week I on my pull list anyway. So I think it's going to be a big week. And wait, is this weekend San Diego? This weekend, San Diego. Yeah. So probably next Monday, we should have a good amount of news from reveals that the publishers have all had at the convention. That'll be fun. So next week should be a very fun one. Is there anything else that I recommend? No, I guess I talked about all my recommendations. Thank you all for your jokes, your support. Wow, stuff like this means so much to me. I just checked for IMAX 70 millimeter in New York City, and I think every single showtime is sold out all the way through August 12th. How is that even possible? I can still do 70 millimeter or IMAX, but not the combo. Either one of those would still be a good experience, just to be clear. Either one, good luck. Thank you for the support. Yeah, there's only so many theaters. And by the way, I'll end with this. It's so funny. So, Avengers Doomsday, we were talking earlier. Fun trailer. I'm hopeful. It comes out the same weekend as Dune 3. And Dune 3 booked first. So they got the IMAX theaters. Disney got jealous. We wanted the IMAX theaters. So they came up with just inventing a new name for film. They're calling it Infinity Vision. They're like, see Avengers Doomsday in Infinity Vision. Well, I just told you that IMAX isn't truly IMAX at most theaters. So Infinity Vision means even less. Just ridiculous. Doomsday. Have people been saying that? I didn't know that. I'll see Avengers first, but I'll see Dune 3 out of curiosity. I will say, having read the books, it gets kind of depressing after the first book. But it could be interesting. But it's depressing. Oh, good for you. All right. Anyway, I had a great time, everybody. Please remember to be kind to each other and keep reading comics. You've earned it tonight. Another double salute. Bye, everybody. Have a good night. Have a good week.